back in the saddle, cut to the chase. I ain't somebody who stays in one place. Ready to go, I'm coming to play. You better know I still got something to say. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. Some things are different, but nothing has changed. Still got my number, still got my name. Tell everybody I'm back in the game. match I couldn't handle. No one else could ever hold a candle. Get ready for a battle, cause you know
Well, live from the Daytona Road Course in Daytona Beach, Florida. This is the Major Series, and I'm not Wesley Outland. Wesley has no voice. He's been pushing himself all week long, so he decided to take the night off. We'll catch him when the next Majors comes around, and you'll more than likely catch him tomorrow night for the Northwest Cup Series as well. But I'm joined alongside Tim Moore and Broxton Packard. And this is going to be an interesting race, boys. Broxton, you've done some math. You did some driving. You did some calculation. And what are we looking for here?
Yeah, you know, my mechanical engineering degree is coming in hot here. I ran some laps with this Nissan, our cheese wedge of the field, I like to call it. And these are some very interesting cars. They've got a lot of downforce, and they've got some weird metrics of measurement for fuel. They're measured in pounds of fuel instead of gallons like we're used to. They get 198 pounds of fuel in those race cars every pit stop. They get about 30 laps a tank, which is going to make it in this 2 hour and 25 minute race about a 3-stop, maybe a 4-stop if they think tires are a real issue. With these Audis, it's a whole different story. These things are not aero dependent. They're very heavy, very slidey around. So I would probably say that tires are going to be way more important to the Audi guys than the Nissan guys.
That's fair. And Tim, welcome to the Majors. I don't know if this is your first one or not, but welcome in. And you picked I would think, the longest one to do.
Well, I mean, long, yes, but I'll tell you what, I think today's race is going to be definitely exciting here, Terry, this evening. I mean, you kind of talk about here at the Daytona Road Course, of course, the mix of strategy. We talk about fuel, potentially a 4-pit stop race, but here this evening, I think, you know, the most exciting part with that strategy comes, you know, when do you come down and pit? When do you try to take that opportunity to get track position and control your fate? I mean, this is going to be one of those races where you may have control early, needless to say, and come towards the end, we could see a 2-3 car race, you know, when it's all said and done in the big picture. So, well, Terry, by the way, yes, this is my first Major Series race. The expectation early on is I would expect a lot of these guys to duke it around, do what they can to get track position, to set themselves up for the first and second pit stops. But really, I think this whole evening is going to be decided once we get to pit stop number 4 on how this whole race outcome is going to look. But I expect the aggression and tempo to be out there definitely early on in this one.
Well, and Broxton, I'll come to you for this here. So you see Holman up there at the top of the charts. Your different classes are in different colors. So for the fans watching at home, you're going to see, you know, I believe that would be a yellow type color right there. I'm half colorblind and dumb, so I don't necessarily know my colors all that well. But then you'll see blue. You see Medina down there in the 24th position. That's not necessarily the time where it's going to be, but from Holman all the way down to Go Million, it is less than a second separates them, 9/10. Where on this track can mainly find 9/10 of a second?
It's going to be all about that inside section, that inside bit. I like to call it the boomerang in the middle of the track. Coming on to the NASCAR 1 and 2, you can make or break your entire lap off of that. If you get a bad corner, if you slip up just a little bit, that can easily lose 9/10 of a second, if not more, because these cars are so fast in a straight line. If you slip up or let's say you have to pass one of our slower class cars in the Audi GTOs, if you have to pass one of them and it's a bad spot to pass, well, man, you're in a world of hurt, because not only are you going to have a tough time resetting yourself into the bus stop, but you've also lost precious, valuable time to the guys in front of you.
And Tim, I'll actually throw a softball question at you here for a second, because you have raced a 24-hour race here. Obviously in the GT3s and a couple other classes over there in that form of IMSA racing. 9/10 of a second, where are we pulling it from?
You know what? I think the answer that was just given to you was relatively, truly the answer. You know, with there being a lot of high speed, you know, realistically speaking, the best opportunity for you to not just make passes, but are going to be from that high speed to low speed sectors of the course. And I think the only other sector where I'll say where opportunities will be set up this evening would probably really be, you know, through the bus stop, how you back up the corner to try to set yourself up to the exit to get back to the start-finish line. Here at Daytona, again, obviously the speeds are going to be high. It's going to be intense. But again, you've got to be on your game, and much different compared to a Daytona 24 that you just referenced, Terry, of course, where there's a little bit of mindset of you're trying to survive for the long haul. Obviously, here tonight, you're not going to have anywhere near that distance, which is why you have to optimize your passes. So if I'm going to want to make up those 9/10, I'm going at it as hard as I can on those on the infield portions, and definitely I'm trying to set up my runs as good as possible through the bus stop to get back to the front stretch, because really I would say that once you get to turn 1 and start working yourself back through the horseshoe and so on, it's going to be a little bit separated back out, and you're going to have to start, you know, gathering yourself back up together if you're not looking that strong on the racetrack.
Well, we finally see on-track action so far. Obviously, 12 minutes to go in this practice session before we take into qualifying. This, it's good to have two drivers in the booth, especially two that I would say particularly enjoyed road racing. Right? You both enjoy this. You both have taken a lot of laps around this track. Broxton, I'll go to you. Walk me around the lap around here.
I've had my fair share of incidents around this track, so I know the walls quite well as we're looking at the 74 here of Howard. This is a very interesting part of the track, especially with these cars. They are so stuck to the ground with how much just rear end and front end downforce. The side force on these things, it's completely symmetrical, completely flat, so they are going full force as hard as they can. This infield section, especially this turn right here, will sometimes entice you to go a little further than you should. He does a really nice job keeping it tidy on the inside. And coming on to NASCAR 1, that's the turn that I say is going to make or break your entire run. It's so bumpy down there. That transition up to the banking, it gets the car upset. I ran a couple laps with this Nissan, and I felt a lot of understeer and a little bit of oversteer. It was such a weird combination of the two. They just slid all over the place. The brakes on these things, as we come into the bus stop, he's going to go 3, 2, 1 hard on the brakes, dive it right down. There's so much downforce, it just begs you to go harder. And he's going to come up on to NASCAR 3 and 4, the high bankings. Now he'll be reaching speeds upwards of 190 miles an hour. These cars are easily capable of 200 miles an hour. But something different, as I'm going to throw it over to my co-host, talk about these Audis here.
Well, I'll tell you right now, from what you're seeing about the Audis, I mean, you see them right now going through the kink as they work back towards the right-hander before they set back to take the left-hander back onto the track. And right now you see them all kind of grip down. And, you mentioned a really good point a few moments ago, as now we're looking at a different Audi on the racetrack. But you see these high speeds. The question I really think about today, too, we haven't talked about it much, but how much of an impact are we going to see, especially earlier on this race, that we'll see cold tires having? Because it's going to take about, I'd say, a lap or so for a lot of these guys, even with having a lot of the downforce, to really kind of get that grip and that feel on the racetrack to really want to start going 100%.
We look at this battle here, and this would be the first test that we see in practice, is the Nissan catching the Audi. You see the speed reference that you see. The Audi is a whole lot slower off the exit of the corner and down the straight. It's the Nissan's going to pull away. It's going to be able to turn a lot more laps than what the Audi's going to turn here this afternoon, but it is a timed event. I do believe that we are getting closer to the end of the major series, and then it's a 267 lap race around Homestead, Miami. So a little bit of a different challenge, but these drivers understand what the major series is all about, and this is brought to you by Majors Garage. Figured I'd throw that plug out there while I'm there. Keys to the race: stay out of trouble, maybe, Broxton?
Yeah, definitely. For me, if I'm in a slower class car, if I'm in the Audi, I'm taking care of my car, making sure I get to the end, and watching out for those Nissans coming up behind me. There is such a speed difference, like you said, coming out of these corners. If you're just in the wrong place, wrong time, it could end your race, and it wouldn't be your fault. If I'm in one of those Nissans, it's once again, keep your nose clean and watch those fuel numbers. You want to make sure you're taking care of your car. Make sure you get to the end, because, like my good buddy Wesley Outland says, to finish first, you first must finish, and that's going to be the biggest key, in my opinion.
Tim, talk about the draft here for a second, because obviously these Audis are going to be a little bit more packed together, especially on the straightaway portions. It's going to be technical on the inside portions of this racetrack, but you see a pack right here, a 3, and then you see the Nissan catching up to them. How much do you have to be worried if you're a Nissan driver and you're coming up on the Audis and there are 3, 4, 5 of them in a line, or they're off the track?
Well, you have to be worried when you see something like that happen in front of you, because, listen, again, it can happen in an instant. That speed difference definitely does play a factor. And, I think the big thing, too, that if you're a Nissan getting behind an Audi that you have to get so used to is, these Audis can go because they're going at much lower speeds, but still, for the fact of the matter, not really that slow. They can take the corners a little bit more aggressively, especially in the infield, compared to what these Nissans can do. So really, I'd be worried if I'm a Nissan driver, because it's almost, for example, like we say about LMP2 drivers with GT3 drivers and GTE drivers. Sometimes you don't really know when they're starting to catch you until it's too late. So realistically, for a lot of these Audi drivers here tonight, it's definitely going to have to be that matter of being aware. But considering that a lot of these guys are going to be packed up and almost nose to tail throughout the night, again, you kind of talk about conserving your stuff, making sure you have enough to get to the end. You've got to optimize your opportunities when you can get it to pass, but you don't want to put yourself in a vulnerable position. So I look for a lot of the Audi guys, in those cars here tonight, to really, really focus on making sure they're in the right spots at every possible corner, and they're not putting themselves in a vulnerable position that could potentially take them out of a chance of running for a win in this race.
And you see, we had the timer up there for a second. Murphy Nichols just jumped up to the top spot at a 132.55. That was over Joseph Homan at a 132.62. As you see here, it's 6/100ths of a second. It's going to separate those two this afternoon. You take a look right here. That is the 382 machine. He finds himself deep on this board, all the way back in 30th. That's Nick Horvath. Not a whole lot of speed there for Nick.
Not exactly a lot of speed, but listen, Terry, sometimes it's not about the speed that matters. Again, it comes down to consistency. And I mean, when you think about a 2-hour-long race, that's not a lot of time on paper, but it's a lot of opportunity to make a lot of things happen. And again, I'll put it like this. Really, this race tends to calm down after, I would say, the first 2-3 laps, and once we get to the first set of pit stops. But overall, where I expect a lot of guys to make their opportunities is going to be on that first lap, missing the chaos and wrecks that I'm sure we're going to end up seeing. So honestly, right now, I'm not too worried if I'm home and, not exactly having a lot of a lot more of top speed compared to a lot of the other guys, because that could put him in a scenario where, again, hey, I have a good enough car to get it done. I just have something that I'm confident with as the race goes on.
Broxton, we go on board with Andrew Kotska, sitting P3 currently, obviously very fast. Walk me through here as he goes into turn 2.
Yeah, I'm going to walk us through, and I want to also point out a couple things about these cars. This car here, we're on board with a Nissan GTP ZXT. Wow, the Nissan guys really went all out with all of that. But this car is a master of power and downforce. It has... Get this, guys. It's got only 795 brake horsepower at 8,000 RPM, so, you know, not terrible. And then it's got a single Garrett turbocharger. That thing, that turbo snail, as we hear him going up the gears. Both of these cars have turbochargers. The Nissan is two-wheel drive, but the Audi has the Quattro four-wheel drive transmission in it. So that is actually a four-wheel drive car racing against these. I'm gonna keep calling them downforce wedges because they're kind of insane. Andrew doing a great job with this 047. He always has been. He's going to be a contender in my mind all night long. But it's going to be interesting to see because we've seen Andrew get a little bit too aggressive at some times, or at some points, and these cars aren't the most durable.
Well, not the most durable, but you see how hard he charged into turn one there. Almost locked him up to get it. You talk about the horsepower that's about these cars. He has shown a tremendous amount of pace. I mean, sitting at a 132.7, he's a tenth behind Joseph Homan and only 2/10 behind that of Nicholas, or Murphy Nicholas. I say his last name here because it's the first thing I see. But Tim, the off tracks here at this race course, a little bit more forgiving here than it is somewhere else.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit more forgiving, but I would say it's really a little bit more forgiving in the bus stop than any other place, especially when you're on that last portion of the left-hander to get back towards NASCAR 3. But you see him right now, of course, Koska going into NASCAR 1, now NASCAR 2, and I'll just put it like this. You quickly in that infield run out of space, which is why I say when you get back onto the racing surface, you're going to see these guys spread it out and do what you can. And I'll tell you what, you see him go here in the bus stop, aggressive on the brakes. I think here in these Nissans, especially tonight, what you're going to see a lot of guys really sending it as deep as they can to turn one because you want to carry as much momentum as you can to really help yourself, set up a good apex through turn 2 and eventually to turn 3 in the horseshoe. But I mean, look at Koska right now practicing. I believe he's going to practice the pit road entry. And that's another thing we're going to see throughout the day. We're going to see a lot of guys when it comes down to pit stops being as aggressive as they can be getting onto those brakes to, knock it down to the pit limiter as late as possible. That is an absolute perfect pit road entry, if I must say, for the 047.
Should we cue the be aggressive sign? And wow, look at these onboards here. You got 2 in VR, and then you have, a very nice man cave back there with the Tony Stewart, the Earnhardt, some Rusty Wallace back in there, and then I believe that would be a stuffed bear.
Gotta give some credit for these guys on VR, by the way, because let me tell you something. If anyone's ever had a VR, it's a challenge to keep your head still and, continue looking forward while you have a full field of view at your own leisure. It is definitely not easy. So I definitely give a lot of credit to these guys, having the confidence to put on the VR goggles and really go at it as hard as they can on the racetrack.
Well, Brockton, I'll actually ask you a question there because you saw 3 different style of wheels. You saw the base wheel, which was kind of, not a circle one. It was more, like an F1. And then you had an F1 style wheel, and then you had like a Fanatec. You had a NASCAR circle wheel. What's the advantage in those wheel sets if we could pull them back up for a second?
It's really just driver's preference. I prefer just having a standard circular wheel. The one that we see on the left is more of a GT style, kind of in between, and then you've got that F1 styled wheel. The F1 styled wheel is going to provide a little more control and a little more maneuverability. However, it's going to be a lot harder to catch these cars if they get into a slide. So your NASCAR styled wheel is going to help with catching the slides and a couple other things.
Well, let me also ask this. Would you rather have a direct drive wheel in this case with having to deal with the bumps here at these road courses?
You know, I've never driven direct drive, but I've always wanted to, and I hear it helps a little bit with understanding what the back of the car is doing, so I would want as much feeling as I can, especially through the infield. When you've got so much power going to the rear wheels, I want to know what those wheels are doing, so give me as much feel as I can.
As we start to grid here, we're going to get ready to take this. I'll give you the top 5, obviously, in this field so far. You have Joseph Homan, Maurice Gomillion, Nicholas I keep reading his name backwards. I'm telling you, he has 2 first names. Murphy Nicholas, P3, Doug Buchanan, and Andrew Kotska is your top 5 here this afternoon. I don't know how many times I'll screw that up, but we might figure it out eventually as we go through this race. But I hope fans at home are strapped in and ready to go, because you're going to listen to us for a hot minute. We got 2.5 hours, or 2.4, I think is what the producer said in our ear. This is going to be a long, bumpy, twisty. It's going to be something. I'll just say that. I almost slipped up and said something bad.
But you're gonna get all the fun. You're gonna get all the fun early on, Terry. Again, I can't emphasize enough here as these guys get ready to go green. The first lap is always the most chaotic here at Daytona, no matter what class you're in. I would not be surprised by the time we get to turn 3 if we have at least 4 or 5 cars off the racetrack.
I like that idea. They go through the bus stop. Obviously, here at a road course, for fans that are kind of new to road racing, they don't start traditionally and do a full lap. What they're going to do is they're going to do a half lap. They'll start on whatever the closest distance to actually get the field formed up and go, and then we'll take this green flag as soon as that pace car gets away from these drivers and lets them go at it. But I'm not Wesley. Wesley's sick. Hopefully he's watching. He gets better. Field is separated between Audis and Nissans, so your Audi drivers are back a little further back. But Wesley, this calls for you, buddy. We'll try to hold the fort down for a little bit. You see that the pace car goes through NASCAR 3 and 4, and they're getting ready to go. You said it, Tim. Be a couple cars off the racetrack before we get to turn 3. We're going to find out really, really quick, because the pace car turns down pit lane, and here they come. Can't believe I'm calling a road race. We're green at Daytona Road.
A beautiful, beautiful jump there by Homan as they work towards turn number 1. They're 2 by 2 all the way back to the 5th spot, and at least for the moment, they'll get things all settled out. But again, cold tires could play here as they head towards turn 3.
Well, according to our ticker up here, we got almost 2 million laps called. So I think it's a lot of laps, Broxton. You said how many pit stops? 3 potentially?
Yeah, I think the ticker is a little bit confused. I don't think we're going to run 2 million laps. That would take a little longer than 24 hours as well. So unless we're getting paid overtime by Mr. Jeff Stabenow, I think that's supposed to not be like that.
Jeff, if you wanted to pay us overtime, buddy, we're going to be here until Tuesday morning. Hopefully it goes, but you see the Nissans, they're going to go single file. You go back a little further back, they tried to go 2 by 2, but your fast guys in practice, boys, Joseph Homan, Murphy Nicholas finally got it right. They go through the bus stop for the first time on the back straightaway, and they rocketed through there, and Homan, Tim, he put one on him there because he separated almost by 4 car lengths on him.
And Homan doing a good job there, carrying the speed through the bus stop, and this is where he's in a vulnerable spot as Nichols starting to get a little bit of that draft, cutting it underneath, 3/10, almost 2.5 car lengths now, as it'll be Homan that leads lap number 1. But this is where I expect Nichols to get aggressive here into turn 1, see if he's going to have a wide arcing entry. It seems to be that way, and he'll be right to the bumper as they head off turn number 1.
Well, Broxton, the question's going to be, which line do you take in some of these corners? We're going to turn a lot of laps around here. If you're one of these drivers, if you're playing offense or defense, do you take a more shallow approach, or do you take a more of a wider apex into the corner?
I tell you what, for Nichols there, he's going to take whichever line that Holman isn't, because that error is going to make his car a little upset. You can see him struggling with the front end. He gets the car underneath him, and he's going to challenge for the lead, coming in to NASCAR 1 and 2.
Yeah, going into NASCAR 1 and 2, you see the 55 of Nichols. He's going all over the back bumper of the 222 of Homan. Gets him up the racetrack a tad bit, and he's actually going to have the preferred line going into the corner, and he's going to clear before they get to the bus stop. But Tim, potential chance for the 222 and the 044 Maurice Million to take a dive bomb into the bus stop.
There is a chance, but if I were them, I would just sit in line and be patient, because right now you're 5 cars breaking away from the field, and right now for the moment as Holman heads out the bus stop, you see them kind of separate a little bit. That's because everyone has to kind of outbrake each other to make sure no one's running each other over. But Terry, we're going to continue to see this accordion effect continue to play out as this race goes on in this front 4, as here we go, 222 is going to have a run, but again, the run developing a little bit too late, so he'll just sit in line back into turn 1.
He sits in line into turn 1 like he talked about. It is a 5. I mean, it's a 5-car breakaway up here. You go back, I'll update you on the on our Audis that are all the way back there. I believe our first Audi will be Medina in the 2 machine in the 26th position on the track, but he's leading his class. So a little bit different tier, as there are 2 classes on the racetrack, all vying for the same spot. So I believe if the way road racing's explained to me, you'll have 2 winners, but you'll have an overall winner of each class, if that makes sense across the board. It didn't make sense much to me either when I started watching road racing. But Murphy Nichols, he's pulling away with this. Great lap on the board so far with a 1:33.9. That 55 machine looking pretty sporty early in this event.
I just want to point out there was an issue for Daniel Salim Howard, it seems. He is off the racetrack as of the moment. Don't know what happened to him, but perhaps the first car of the day having some issues in his field.
Yeah, Tim, I was just about to butt in there. He, on lap number 2, got too hot into turn 1, popped the brakes, hit someone actually on the rear end, spun, hit the tire barrier on pit exit, and destroyed the front end of that race car. Unfortunately for him, that does not affect the power of that machine, as they're rear engine machines, but definitely affected the aerodynamics of that machine, and that is a tough way to start a long race.
Not a good way to start the race, but we look at Maurice Million back here in the 3rd place position, trying to hold off Andrew Kotska and Doug Buchanan, who's sitting there in the 4th and 5th place position. They're allowing now Cody Richardson to work his way into this mix. He sits back in the 6th place position, but he's about a second away from Buchanan at least. But that second gap, boys, can be made up anywhere on this racetrack. You outbrake somebody in the corner, 2 corners in a row, you have an opportunity to catch them. And Tim, this early in this race, I think they're listening to you. Sit in line.
And you have to. And the big thing is, well, Terry, is I'll put it like this. That second can be made up just off of simple checkups with everyone stacking up in front. But I do want to say this right now, at least. Give Murphy Nichols some credit. Last time by, he ran a 1:33.10. He was 2/10 faster than everyone around him. He's absolutely pushing the limits early on right now, and you can tell that thing's all gripped up. But it makes me ask this question, because we talk about aerodynamics having such, and I mean such, a massive impact on this race here this evening. Brockton, I guess I have to ask you like this. What are we going to see about tire strategy, do you think, coming through the pit to the pit stops as this race goes on? Because compared to the LMP2s and so on, we obviously would see some guys just come down, take fuel only, and try to, at times, especially during the nighttime, triple stint tires. Is that going to be the case here this evening?
I don't think so. These tires are a little older than these modern-day LMP2 tires, and they're a little bit softer as well. That's why they're giving so much grip to these drivers. As we're looking at the 382 there, that's a battle in our not LMP2, excuse me, our Audi class with the 382 and the 27. But to answer your question, Tim, I definitely would see possibly 2 or 4 tires every stop, and that's just a safety net. You don't want to be on old tires spinning out. That's just a waste of time. Throw them on there and get it over with.
Well, we do look at Nick Horvath back here in the 27th position on the board, but I'm not much of a counter, but that means that he would be in the fifth place position in the Audi classes. We changed it to time, so anybody out there, as Andrew Vega comes down pit road from the 31st position. Interesting at the early portion of this race, a couple laps in, 4 laps to be exact, but we changed it to time. We know what's ahead of us. 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 30 seconds that we get to strap in, and it took that long to figure out, Tim, who was going to win the Giants and Jaguars game, and it only came up to an inch today.
And it quite literally did only come down to an inch. And of course, as a New York Football Giants fan myself, I'm proud to say we're 6-1. Although I would like to say we didn't exactly deserve that. But you look on the racetrack right now, obviously a couple guys like mentioned Vega not having the exact start he deserves as he's come down to the pits, along with James Dean, who's a lap down, and Mark Santana, who is currently 2 laps down. But we're quickly starting to get into a mix, and I'll tell you right now, there's a lot more than inches separating a lot of these guys on the racetrack, Terry. But lap traffic, it's going to start, coming to a mix, and what's feet will quickly become a matter of inches if a bunch of these leaders continue to get held up.
Well, the 55 of Murphy Nichols came down pit lane. He's already in and out of his box. The 55 machine was on pit road for 12.57 seconds. So very interested to see maybe
Fuel
what had
strategy.
happened to him. Potentially.
I'm thinking potential fuel strategy, Terry. That's what I'm thinking, is that maybe a couple of these guys are trying to guarantee themselves to go the 4 stops. Maybe they're a little bit questionable there on that edge. So I could be wrong about Murphy Nichols, but I would like to say, if that's to be the case, if he came down early and didn't have a situation occur, I'd like to think maybe a couple of these guys are thinking on the strategy realms. It looks like there's a little bit of smoke through turn 1 as well. I think we had someone spin there in NASCAR 1.
Now, Tim, I wish I would be able to give you that state of mind saying that he's playing a strategy game. The 55 of Nichols blew an engine through the bus stop and had to coast it all the way around. Tough break. He has used his fast repair and is now back on pit road. He said it himself, blew an engine. That is a tough way to go from top of the leaderboard to fighting through the scraps.
Well, and let's talk about that for a second, because mechanical background to mechanical background. Did he money shift it and just kick it down too quick, or did he hit the gas too hard while he did it? What would cause that motor to blow there in the bus stop of all places?
For the bus stop, you're going from 5th gear to about 2nd gear in a matter of about 100 yards. So it's very possible he could have just went down too quick. I'm currently trying to get an inside view so I can listen to the engine here.
Got trouble right here with the 143. That will be, as soon as I scroll down, that is Ron McPherson having issues there. And then you have, you've got a little bit of damage over there to that side of the car. Now these cars affect the motors in the front, because unlike our Nissan counterparts, that's where the motor sits. So vice versa here. When we talk about a car going head first in the wall today, if we refer to the Nissans, don't worry about the motor. It just affects some aerodynamics there. But if you go nose first in these Audis, I promise you, you're going to go a little bit slower as the battle between the 723 and the 84 is on board this moment. That's a battle for the 32nd position. Overall, it's not the position for the Audi class, but this position is for, I just lost what I said. Oh yeah, 32nd.
Well, I'll tell you right now, based upon a lot of the Audis we've seen throughout the field, and of course two of these, or 3 of these rather, all in the picture right now, relatively clean. But Terry, I have a very strong feeling by the time we get to the end of this race, there may not be a single clean Audi left on the racetrack. Oh goodness, oh boy, the 222 of Holman just went off. That was your leader. Goodness.
Yeah, that was the overall leader and the leader of the Nissan class, and he dropped all the way down to 7th, and now he's 9 seconds off the overall lead. Kotska, he took the race lead in the 047 He's got a 2.5 second lead. Nobody's safe on this racetrack at all. I mean, two of your leaders had an issue. Yeah, you've had two leaders already have issues. One blew a motor, one got spun based off of what we talked about with the Audis being there. There's so much going on, boys, and we've only cracked 8 laps.
And I'll tell you right now, Murphy Nichols just absolutely set another blazing lap. I believe he ended up running a 1:32.92 to be exact. So that's 3 seconds faster than your leader of Kotska, of course, who overall has had to go through some chaos early on in this one. But I'll tell you what, too, the other thing that I have to say, I'm really impressed of what happened to Murphy Nichols. He blew up. Of course, he had to use his fast repair, but he's already back up to the 19th spot. And believe it or not, he's only 32 seconds off the lead. So while, again, long way to go, winning may not be exactly purely in his picture. A lot's going to need to happen. For him to only be down 32 seconds despite blowing an engine, that is definitely really, really impressive for the fact that he's still pretty much in the hunt if he can continue putting up the pace he has.
All right, anybody down to take bets here? It's Kotska. Something happened to him. He's fallen. He's all the way back to 7th. Richardson takes the race lead. Spicer went off track. Burke went off track. Stein went off track. They're falling down the leaderboard here. Could we have an Audi win this thing potentially, as everybody wants to give up the lead from the Nissan stuff, Brockton?
Well, a lot of the Audis are going laps down, and I wanted to quickly jump back to when our overall leader of Joseph Holdman spun out. That was not the fault of the 462 Audi. Holdman just overcooked it, and big damage on that Nissan. What Nissan is that? I can't quite see the number on it. That is terminal damage. Ooh, that's
a lot.
Big damage.
And Terry, I know you said, hey, when they hit the front, it won't impact the engine. Indeed, that is Spicer. I promise you that car will not go fast anytime soon with that kind of damage on the front. Listen, the aerodynamics, they still have an impact on speed. It may not hurt the engine. You'll go back to top speed once it's repaired. But I promise you, once you hit hard, you're not going fast anymore, and you're going to take a nice trip to the pits for a good little bit of time. And unfortunately, that's what happened right there.
Well, he had a big incident. We talked about it. I believe this is the car he got with here, the 053. Those two, that's Carl Burke. He had issues. Buchanan had issues as well. And we're starting to see a ton of drivers. Paulison comes in. Stein's on pit road. With
They're all
just
damaged.
Significant body damage here on these machines. That's the 89 of Patrick Stein. Carl Burke's right above him. Stephen Paulison's right above him here on pit lane. And they've got crazy amounts of damage on these machines and fast repair being used.
I'll tell you what, if I'm a Nissan right now, I'm definitely worried if I've utilized my fast repair, because there is a long, long way to go at this point, and we're just seeing calamity. It feels like lap after lap. I mean, Terry, we literally still haven't even reached a 2-hour left mark at this point in this race. I just don't know if we can get any crazier as what we've seen earlier on in this race. But I'll tell you like this, I'm continuing to look at it. You now look at Nichols, he's up to the 14th position through all this chaos. I mean, he's still about 2 to 3 seconds a lap faster than a leader, as Nichols trying to utilize the draft here to make a little bit of a slingshot engage like he's Ricky Bobby, but right now he sits in line. I just don't know. I feel like we're going to see a lot more chaos, and your bet on could an Audi win this race, based upon what we've seen early on, there could be a possible chance.
Well, that's right in front of him is Don Donaldson in that 040. He's clocking through the field, and I'm talking about is Murphy Nichols. I mean, he just punched a 132.9 or 134.3. The guy in front of him, a 136 flat. There is nobody in front of him until you get to Doug Buchanan all the way at the top, and Ken Lang, or Ken Lung, I think that's how you pronounce it. A 134.8 Everybody else, 135s or 136s. There's not a whole lot of drivers that's doing what the 55's doing. We take a look around a couple battles on this racetrack. Here's some of our drivers that just come off pit road with significant damage using the fast repair.
Well, I got to think about it like this. You have to think if right now you're Nichols, you're probably driving with a chip on your shoulder more than anything else because he's mad at himself that he blew the engine. But I'll tell you what, Terry, to be consistently over a second to a second and a half faster than the leader a lap, it's definitely impressive. You know, at one point he was 36 seconds down, I believe. He's cut it down all the way to, I believe, well, actually now it's about 32 seconds in distance. So he's cut about 4 seconds off. But I'll tell you what, these guys continue to be aggressive. But for Richardson right now, who's currently the leader, to have a 1.3 second gap, that's going to be the most stressful but relaxing 1.5 seconds I've ever seen, considering still anything could happen at an instant as we're closing in towards 2 hours and 5 minutes remaining in this event.
Brockton, we've just hit 11 laps, theoretically, if we're counting lap-wise. What's the lap counter for us to start seeing people come down pit lane?
You know, for the Nissans, I could get maybe 30 to 35 laps of fuel, so that would put us about 40 minutes into this race. But I want to correct something that I said earlier in regards to the 55 of Nichols. I've been riding along with him through that whole lap that he was quote-unquote blowing up, and it didn't sound like that car was blowing up, but it could have just been some mind games by the 55 of Nichols, because as soon as he got out of the bus stop, he instantly went from full throttle to half throttle. So I haven't driven these cars much. I don't know a lot, as we're on board with an Audi driver. Who is that? He's got a nice looking setup. Jason McSparron, nice setup, an AMSOIL shirt, repping some good oil there. But I don't know if the 55 blew up. I don't know. I can't say that 100%.
That's funny because I know an AMSOIL dealer too, and I just so happen to have a card in front of me here. I'll save that for later and put that for my Monday night show that I do. But good to see people representing AMSOIL dealers and people with good lubricants for motors out there. We need more people with a passion for cars. But I like his wheel setup. I need to see if I can convince my wife to let me get that.
It's definitely a good-looking wheel, and I'll tell you right now as well. Terry asked a question earlier on the broadcast. What would you rather prefer? Of course, my oval background, love a good old circular wheel. But in my opinion, when you get on the road courses, it's a lot more easier to handle one of those style wheels that he's sporting right now, just because, again, it feels like you have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more control when you're turning left to right compared to the circular wheels, where it almost feels like at times the top of the wheel's in your way when you're trying to get a full rotation. Definitely a real good look. And listen, at the end of the day, it's whatever you're most comfortable with. And I can promise you right now on the racetrack, Terry, I don't think there's a single person that feels comfortable with right now with how chaotic it's been to open up this one.
Well, I mean, Cody Richardson up front, he's got a 3.5 second gap over Doug Buchanan. Biggest mover so far in this race is Kyle Graham, though, in the 71, as we continuously look for battles across this road course. This is a lot happening, and it's calmed down. I mean, we're going to get to the 2-hour mark with only about 6 drivers using a fast repair at this moment. So not too wild, but we got 14 laps on the board here. You talked about it, Brockton, with our Audi drivers going a lap down. There's, I believe, all of them has went 1 lap down at this moment. So Medina still leads that portion in the 2 machine, all the way back in the 26th position overall, and it would be Nathan Medina. So,
yeah, all of our Audi drivers have gone at least 1 lap down. There are a couple guys in the Nissans who we've seen have some trouble. As speaking of trouble, I think the 382 going off. Yeah, he's been struggling a little bit through that infield section. I think, what does Wesley call this car, Cody? The lizard car or something like that? I think that's what he calls it. Definitely a paint scheme that jumps out and grabs you.
Speaking of lizard, I'll go off track for a second. Y'all ever had a lizard play dead on you?
Well, I've never had a lizard, so I couldn't ever speak that up here in New York.
I've got a bearded dragon, and he played dead. Enough that I almost buried him. I put him outside thinking he was dead. You know, Circle of Life thing, Lion King. Yeah, bearded dragon, a little dude. And
you've never told me this before. I've known you for years.
Well, yeah,
never once have you told me you have a lizard.
I have a lizard, and his name is Judas. So the lizard sits in the living room, and I thought he was dead. So I put him outside thinking, okay, something's going to eat him. It's going to do its thing, whatever. Well, I'll be danged if I didn't go outside thinking, okay, I'm going to go out here and see if he's gone. And maybe something got him. Nope. Alive as day. Just looking around, swimming, doing his thing out in the little lagoon in the back. Put him back in his cage, whatever, willy-nilly. He didn't even care. It's like he's ungrateful. It's like, you know, these cold-blooded creatures, they don't care. He goes in there, get him a $30 light bulb, for heaven's sakes. A $30 light bulb. That doesn't even use it. Just sits on the side of it. And you put him outside, he's gung-ho for 20, 30 minutes, and then he's, you know, fine. Put him in his cage. Don't want it. He's like, I don't even know how old he is. I found him in a barracks room somewhere. But this is the best battle on the racetrack with the lizard car. Yeah, I threw myself off there. These drivers going into turn one here.
I gotta interrupt real quick. We had a bit of a fender bender through our little short chute that the leaders have just gone through. Timothy Klaus absolutely clobbered the back of Mark McFadden. Mark went flying through the infield, and we got another car around. That's the Miller Lite machine. Can't quite see whose it is, but
maybe the 107.
Had a little bit too much to drink, maybe, on that one.
Oh, that's a good one. That's the 107 of James Colby. That was good. Too much to drink. I'm a big, I'm a fan of that one. I'm a fan of Miller Lite, too.
It's all in good fun. All in good fun.
Well, and with that, we're at the 2-hour mark here. We'll take you to a quick commercial break.
This is our series.
So many different pieces that you have to watch out for.
Where the stakes are always higher.
$300,000.
Where virtual meets reality.
How bad do you want it? They're wasting no time getting at it.
Where the best thrive and the flawless win. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Hey, it's broadcast personality Wesley Outlet up topside at one of the great racetracks of the world, the Caraway Speedway. And I'd like to remind you to join us every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern with coverage of Finish Line, where we talk to everybody from NASCAR to grassroots, like right here at Caraway Speedway. Carolina's Fox Sports Radio affiliates, iHeartRadio, and on the Community Radio Network at 87.5 FM. And remember, thanks to Live Sim Racing Productions, you can actually see the guest panel. Ask their questions. Get interactive with us with comments and so much more in our chat box. Finish Line every Wednesday. Join us every week.
Well, welcome back to the virtual Daytona Road Course. I'm Terry Radford, filling in for Wesley Outland here this afternoon. You'll maybe catch him tomorrow if he's feeling better for the Northwest Cup Series. I got Tim Moore and Broxton Packard with me. And this has been an interesting race, but you guys saw the commercial for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Well, Tuesday night, tune into the iRacing platforms, NASCAR YouTube, across all social media platforms. You can find iRacing for the championship finale live from the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte or in North Carolina. For somebody who's going to win out of the 4 drivers, Tim, one of them's going to win the first ever Dale Jr. trophy.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's definitely entertaining and definitely good to see as a new addition. Listen, the one thing I love about this year of what we got to see in the Coke Series, Terry, it felt like every week was unpredictable. Every week was something exciting, and in regard to you didn't know what you were going to expect. You could say the same thing about, of course, how the NASCAR Cup Series went this year to this point, 19 different winners and potentially still looking for a record-setting 20th. It's been a good year for racing overall, especially in the esports end. And listen, I can guarantee you every lap of that championship race on Tuesday will be most certainly electric and meaningful.
I can't wait to watch it. Honored to not, while I'm not a part of it, I'm honored to say that I am associated with the iRacing side, and really, really, really cannot wait to see who's hoisting that trophy and going to Phoenix to walk across that stage for the championship finale for NASCAR as well. We're getting to 20 laps here. Brockton, Cody Richardson still leads this race. He has a 7-second lead right now over Buchanan. Homan's worked his way back up in the 222 to third. So after that early spin, he's worked his way back up here. You see this battle taking place right in front of us here. That's for the P2 position. Pit stops in the next 20 laps, you think. This is going to come down here to, obviously, Homan's faster. Where does he pass him?
Yeah, definitely pit stops within the next probably 10 or 15 laps. Holman's probably going to get him down the backstretch here. He has had some amazing straight line speed. And, of course, the Major Series is an open setup series. So these guys have been able to tweak throughout the month since our last race. They know these cars inside and out. They've known them more on the different types of surfaces and everything that they need to do. So Holman's car is definitely set up for a longer run on the flat-out surfaces. He's going to have a lot of speed coming into this bus stop here. I wanted to quickly shout out the driver of Graham A. Bolin. He is a Charlotte Phoenix driver for the Coca-Cola iRacing Cup Series. I'm a Charlotte guy, so gotta say good luck to him, and Garrett Lowe, who is the coach for the UNCC 49er iRacing team. He's a great kid. Really enjoyed working with him. But, man, lap traffic when you've got your own cars out there and a different class cars. Tim, what is that like? I've never done a race like this, so kind of talk to us about what it's like dealing with those slower cars.
It's a little bit frustrating when you're catching them in the wrong zones, but really it's more of trying to anticipate the right positions of where you want to make passes. For example, right now we're looking at the Audis go down the straightaway. I think, yeah, okay, so we do have one of them behind, but I mean, look right here, right? For example, you're getting right on the back of an Audi and you're right in the apex of a corner where there's just such narrow position. You're looking at Chris Branson right now, of course, who's leading this pack, but you just kind of have to be patient. Again, right here, right through an apex, we had a far off further on back. There's just not much area to pass it on this infield. It was Dino Vila that ended up going off again. I think it's the second time today Vila has gone off in this one. But you just kind of have to be patient here at Daytona with there not being a lot of spaces. Oh! Woodridge is well going around, so we're starting to see a lot of chaos here again. But to finish off my point, you just kind of have to be patient, let it really develop, because when you get through this infield, there's not many opportunities to pass, and it's either you have to, in this case, not really much opportunities, kind of blink your lights, flash your lights to get around. You've kind of just got to wait until you get back here onto the bigger portion of the racing surface, to NASCAR 1 and 2, as well as to the bus stop and 3 and 4, to really make most of your passes matter.
That pass you just saw right there between Bryce Roberts and Martin Edmonds. Now that was for the 34th position on the racetrack overall. I've lost track of math. Never been my strong suit, but I believe that would be for a top 10 position in their class with those Audis, with Nathan Medina still holding on to that advantage at the moment. This has been a very strung out race, boys. And I don't know if I've ever called one of these before, but at some point in time, we get to do garbage cleanup, where we just fill time until something happens. We have a class breakdown here. Medina holds it. Gargano, Horvath, Torres, Yedio, and McClure is right there in that bundle. And they are even more spread out than our other class, than our Nissan drivers out here. So this is, hey, you see our Nissan drivers, they're a little bit more compact together, Broxton.
Yeah, these guys have a lot more speed, and ooh, that looks like a crabbing Nissan right there. That's the 315 of Ardman. Yeah, that is not looking good. Knocked the toe out of it. It looks like maybe a little bit of a bent suspension component. That is not supposed to be doing that. But these guys are a lot closer together because of the different speeds and the different kind of ways to drive this track. I like to think of these endurance races as just a slinky. You can pull it back and stretch those rings really quick and really far, and then you slowly let it come back in, and they all eventually have a huge pocket of lap traffic or just regular cars, and that slinks everybody back up. There's a big battle right now in the infield. We're watching Maurice Gomillion in that 044 for the Forge Racing. Who's that right behind him? That is going to be Andrew Kotska. Kotska trying to make his way back up through the field. This is a battle for 5th position on the track. These guys are going at it, and this is everywhere, guys.
Yeah, and you know what? You're seeing them continue the battles. You're looking at Gardmore in the pits as well as Ludwig now. I believe we're starting to get towards the realm of scheduled stops relatively soon, because we're just passing around lap 21 right now. I think we're just slightly out the window of a full fuel run for a lot of these leaders that haven't had trouble. But I do want to point this out as well, as you're seeing these guys continue on. You mentioned, Bronson, of course, at least earlier on, about the fact that these guys haven't raced about a month. So I guess from a driver's perspective, I can tell you my perspective on it is that, oh goodness, Courtney almost went wide there into the horseshoe. But overall, sitting a month, even if you get a month to work on a setup and you feel confident about a track, those nerves really, really kick in because you're just so anxious and ready to go. You have to feel a lot of these guys on the racetrack today, and why we've seen a lot of those early mistakes is because of the fact that they haven't really been fully on the track in a racing scenario of this type with this many cars on the field in a month. And again, they definitely have to be feeling the nerves early on in this one.
Yeah, these guys usually... Yes, the nerves are definitely going to be a tough one. These guys are usually racing about once every 2 to 4 weeks, so that's a long time in between races. That's a lot of time to work on a setup, as we're looking at Horvath just trying to let these guys go. These GTs, or the Nissans, are just so much faster than the Audis out of a corner. It is kind of ridiculous how fast they are, but these guys have so much time. Oh, big off by Nick. Oh, blow it down. There he goes. He is lucky he did not take out that Nissan right in front of him.
Actually did a good job. You see McSparron, and I apologize to people if I'm butchering your name. You go back and watch this, you'll know at the 1 hour and 48 minute mark. I am apologizing. I was not expecting to hear my counterpart, my colleague, to sound as bad as he did. He said it in the chat. The worst thing in the world for a broadcaster is to not have a voice. I've been there, and Wesley just called a very good race in the real world. He went and called a race. I can't remember the speedway. I caught clips of it on his social media feed, and he gave it 120%, and like he always does on here and on there, he did it. And that's how you lose your voice. It's just the battle for 36 going on here. You got Bryce Roberts on the screen, got flew by those Nissans, these Audis, moving a little slower down the straights. You see the 613s right in front of him. There's the 314, or the 315, whatever heat numbers decided to be. Goes off track, goes back to the 19th position, and that was a close call there between those two drivers.
And he just came out of the pits about a lap and a half ago. And, you know, Broxton, as well, I want to point this out because remember you just asked a few moments ago about, you know, how do you approach a pass and how irritating does it get when you get stuck behind? Well, we just saw the alternate scenario there a moment ago where we saw an Audi, granted for 36 positions. Oh, goodness, Buchanan is far off the track. That's second place overall right now. And, oh, boy. At least he's able to keep it straight, and that's going to be a lot of time lost. In fact, he's going to lose second to Holman. And, oh, we have two more guys off the track as well. My goodness.
It is kicking off everywhere. Holy cow. That's the 199 of Chris Branson. He also had a couple guys with him. And, Don Dolson overshoots
again.
that corner as well.
That's the fourth time we've seen the 040 of Don Donaldson off of the track. He goes off track again, trying to get it back on track. Does some rallycross there, and I didn't know we were at Crandon today. I thought we were at Daytona. I mean, if you watched the iRacing coverage a little earlier in the day, you would have saw the off-road series at Crandon. Feels like we brought it to Daytona.
I was just about to say, you know, it gets a little bit frustrating because yet the faster cars catching you and making opportunities to pass, but you know, it also must get a lot more frustrating for some of these Audi drivers as well, because we just saw a multitude. Of course, we had a couple Audi drivers go off, but I mean, we're seeing a lot of these guys in faster cars as well going off, taking corners hot, and then having to repass a lot of these slower cars. Here we go again. Now it's Brian Scrivener going off there. I mean, I'll tell you what, right now, you got to wonder for a lot of these guys maybe that haven't pit yet. We talked about, you know, potential tire strategies early on. I think it was around lap 4 of this race of what we could see. Could this be that guys pushing his own?
That's a big hit.
Yeah, that was huge for Cardamone.
Yeah, that's hard. That's fast repair. He toes to pit road. That was a big hit as you look up at Doug Buchanan up here in the 4th overall position. This is a great battle. You got the 053. He's down a lap, I do believe, so this is not for position here. But this is for potentially getting yourself back into a lead lap contention to work yourself around here. You got 1:45 to go. You know, this race is far from over, obviously. It could be worse, you know, other than listening to us for 2 hours.
It feels like, of course, we're only about, 30 minutes into this race at this point, and it honestly feels like, not in terms of how the race has gone, but for a lot of these drivers, imagine on track, it almost feels like we've been here for an hour and a half or 2 hours in regards to just how much chaos again we're seeing. And again, testing the boundaries and limits as now you're seeing Sebastian Jackson head through the pit, now drop 12th overall, make it 13th overall at the line. You're starting to see pit stops now. My thing is here, yeah, we're seeing tires go on for Jackson. So I guess this answers the question, will we see guys taking tires at the pit stops? Well, I think that's an obvious yes, which means these guys, they're looking for grip right now on the racetrack.
Yeah, guys, we are just past the 40-minute mark. We are 43 minutes and 30 seconds into this race. We're going to start seeing these pit stops coming fast and few between. These guys are struggling for grip everywhere. Oh, and a big mess up. Joseph Holman coming in hot, hits the cone. That is for sure going to be at least a 30-second penalty.
And
Not to mention he went out again. And Stacy Hunter.
I was going to say, he's going to get a double penalty because it's not just speeding. He also has an unsafe pit entry, too.
Exactly.
So that penalty could be about 1:15 seconds.
That is a
huge... I hope that's the same Stacy Hunter that I know from the PRL. I saw the Texas flag on the top of that thing, but this is the second time we've seen Joseph Homan have an issue on this racetrack. He spun around when he was trying to pass the Audis on the outside, goes around there into the grass, falls back to 7th, drives back to 2nd, and then he comes on pit road and he spins it again. Can he drive through the field again? I think that's going to be our question. He's taken that penalty. He's in the pit box for 30. He's at 35 seconds now.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge penalty for that 222 team. Luckily, he has plenty of time to make it back up, but he's got to watch out. He's got to watch out for those mistakes. I know it sounds weird to even think about getting disqualified because of incident points, but these guys only have 40 incident points to spare. Every off track is 1, every contact with the wall is 2, so these things will add up very, very quickly. As we're watching the 047 of Andrew Potska in the 3rd position behind his teammate Buchanan, they're all coming down to pit right here. This is going to be very interesting to see, but you've got to watch out for those incident points.
Yeah, but let's say Cody Richardson, the leader, as well, has just come down the pit. So all these guys on the same cycle of strategies. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. And I'll tell you what, for Buchanan, overall, after missing near chaos multiple times early on in this one, he's in the top 5. But look at this. I think Nichols is about to go to the lead through the pit cycle, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, he pitted on lap 5, so you see him back there in P2. He's got Maurice Gomillion in front of him by only, a second and a half, 2 seconds. So not too far away here as you see it. Oh, no! Oh, the 053 popped him.
Goodness, that's not going to go over too well. That's about 2.5, make it 3 seconds nearly lost for Murphy Nicholas right there. Or excuse me, Nichols rather.
Can we put a graphic together that says blame Tim? Because he was talking good about him, and then bam, it all went south.
He's got some side damage there too, it seems, on that left side. So that's, again, it may not fully impact the speed, but I promise you it's going to definitely hurt a little bit as you're looking at Robert Deloach. Here's Andrew Kopska finally getting off through his pit stop out of the pits. Gomillion should be the leader, at least for the moment. But again, that 55, about 40 seconds, even despite the chaos, at least for the moment, ahead of the 064. Howard currently sits in 5th with Buchanan 6th. This field's all mixed up, and gotta wonder too. Of course, we saw what happened in the pit road entry already. I gotta wonder how many of these guys could have potentially had penalties as well under this first cycle of pit stops.
See a lot of weird times on the side sheets here. Daniel Howard had a 10-second pit stop. He pitted on lap 2. So a lot of varying strategies in here. You see 48 seconds, 47, 46, a minute 45 for Michael Lane. Rob Deloach had a 49-second. This has been all but fun. But if you look at Murphy Nichols, he had a 12.5-second pit stop on lap 5. Came down, obviously took fuel, and put himself up. I believe he might have took tires as well. Everybody else was in a box there. You see Jeremy Morrison on the racetrack. He's in the 39th position. He's fighting alongside the rest of these drivers around him, all cooped together as the Nissan catches these Audis at one of the worst parts of this racetrack.
And I'm looking right now, something happened to Michael Lane. His pit time was 1:45 seconds, and he currently sits in the 9th position, still in the pits. So something happened to him as well. But I mean, as you look at Jeremy Morrison, I'll tell you like this. I mean, obviously we're seeing green flag pit stops go on for, the Nissans, but I want to point this out. A lot of these guys in the Audis still have to pit, so we're starting to get within their window here within the next few laps. So I'm going to be very eager to see how this all kind of works out. But we're not done with green flag pit stops, and I'll say it like this. It's a little bit harder to break in these Audis as compared to the Nissans.
A little bit harder to pass there, and this is very strung out. We see the classes being shown across the board. I mean, you see Morris back here, or Morrison a little further on back. He is a lap down. to the class. So while he sits in the 39th position, he just continuously gets lapped.
And that car is definitely not exactly in its fastest state right now. But I'll tell you right now for Morrison as well, I mean, right now you look at him, he's back in the 38th now position, I believe he just made after passing McSparran. Again, you don't have to be the fastest here in this class to end up being there towards the end. You just got to have a clean nose. But right now, with the way it's looking, the times for the moment for Morrison have been about, I want to say, a second and a half to 2 seconds off where the leader is per lap. The last time I ran 1:47.2, the fastest of the group was a 1:43.8. So overall, it's going to need a lot to go on, but there's still a long way to go. 3 more pit stops in the case after this first one. So we could see a lot happen here.
Well, Brockton, I bring you in. We've seen our first round of pit stops come down. Everybody has made them except for the Audis. The Nissans have made their first trip down pit lane. When do we expect to see the Audi drivers come down and attempt their first pit stop?
You know, the Audis are proving me wrong a little bit. I would have thought they would have been coming down a little bit sooner just because of the tire wear that these things are going to give. They are running slower, so they're using a little bit less fuel, so they could be anywhere in the next 10 to 15 laps. I would probably not want to push it any longer than that. Come down, put some tires on it, and make sure you get going and kind of in some clean air. One thing I want to note here is these Audis don't have headlights. They have tail lights, but they don't have headlights. This infield portion of the track can get very dark, and the sun is setting, guys, so this could be an issue for these Audi drivers.
Well, right when you sparked it, Medina, Gargano come down pit lane. So the first 2 of your Audi leaders, they are 1-2. Yes, it shows 24th and 25th on the score sheet right here, but they are the leaders of the class. They are 1-2, and now Yedio, I still think I'm screwing that name all to pieces, but the 27 holds the lead now. He has not pitted. But as we start to see issues, okay, so I was right. Yedio, our producer, tells me in my ear that I'm right. Not very often I hear that from the producer guy. Our Nissan leader comes in. It's Murphy Nichols. He brings it to the pit lane for the service here, and he had a 44-second gap all the way to Cody Richardson. We'll see what happens when he comes back and blends onto the racetrack. Roger, Schwank? Somebody will tell me in my ear eventually. Shank.
Yes,
I was right too. Look at that. Andrew Kotzka actually goes off track here on lap 30 with the approaching the 1 hour and 30-minute mark.
Well, Kotzka had something go wrong for him again. I'll tell you what, Kotzka's having a little bit of a journey right now over these last 10 laps or so. That's about the 3rd time we've seen him having issues. You see Jerry Isaacs come down. He's taking his pit stop. He's got a really good pit stop position. Oh, goodness, Jonathan Diggs. Yeah, going around there in the horseshoe. And oh, goodness, that's a real dangerous spot if he doesn't get going soon, because that's a blindside portion of the corner for a lot of guys. He, for the moment, is going to get out of the way while getting up to speed, now accelerate away. But goodness, I'll tell you what, Diggs not looking too well right now with those tires, getting back up to speed. And oh, goodness, almost chaos. That's a very dangerous spot to make passes.
The cones, no!
Cannot do
what
that.
What the cones do to you, Nicholas?
Man, guys, Nick hit on lap 5, so he was able to stretch his gas out to lap 30, like I said. He might have played this to a T. If he played those mind games and said his engine blew up, if he was able to actually save that amount of time, get some fuel in the car, he is in a very, very good position to run this in 3 more stops. So he could have played this pit strategy out very well.
Okay, so cool. We have our first talking point of this race. He's 23.5 seconds behind Cody Richardson at the moment in our Nissan class. He runs 31 laps through and through to the end. And at that moment, we'll see him at about 93 laps to close this race, a little shy of 100 with an hour and a half to go. He just put down a 2:36.76. Obviously, that included his pit time. He had a faster pit time than the two in front of him as well. He had a 48.3, a 47.3, and then a 47.33 to a 47.35. So a little bit different, but he only fell to third, Tim.
Overall, I'll say it like this, Terry. It's a strategy to a T, and it's not exactly, I want to say, a strategy that's trying to exactly throw drivers off. I just think it's more of, why not come down early, come down, top off on fuel, make sure you're good to go so that you can play the rest of the race aggressively. And think about it like this. What does he have to lose at this point? He can push, push, and push, and push. Meanwhile, Richardson, he has the most to lose right now, right? He has a 22-second gap. We assume that all these guys are going to be real tight on fuel, which means that Richardson may have to do a little bit of saving. I feel if you're Nichols, the other big thing that he did, Terry, coming down then, obviously we saw him get hit in the door during this whole pit cycle, but he avoided inadvertent chaos. That's the other thing you have to remember. So while everyone else was in traffic battling around, he got himself some clear racetrack to gain some time back. So really, I think it was a smart move by Nichols, and he's all offensive throughout the next hour and a half left in this race. I think it was a good call for that 55 team.
And now we see the 047 of Kotska. He's trying to fight the 044 Gomillion up here, trying to work their way through this pack, trying to get as much position as possible, as not for position there. A pass on the outside. That is a lap down machine that has had some issues. You take a look up here a little further up. This will be for the second place, and we just heard in our ear that Nichols just put the fastest lap of the race, and that indeed he did. And he laid a 132.7. That, my friends, is a flat flyer, as he has now caught Buchanan. He's trying to look for the overall P2, and there's a spinner there in front of him.
I think that was Diggs again in that 04.
Diggs going around for the second time that we've seen here this afternoon, but now Pete back to P2, the 55 of Nichols. He's on a mission. I mean, he's closed it down. He was 22, 23 seconds back. He's 21, and he's dropping it drastically at the bus stop there, trying to make every little position, and he is almost 2 seconds faster than the race leader.
Yeah, but the other thing you have to compare right now. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. I was just going to say that's what 4 laps is. 4 lap different tires between Kotska and, or excuse me, Buchanan and Nichols. Nichols came down on 31. Buchanan came down on 27. They had identical pit road times. Both of them 47.3, 47.35 seconds. And he blew by them. He has everything played out to a T. He only has to do 3 stops, while everyone else still has to, or excuse me, Nichols only has to do 2 more stops, while everyone else has to do at least 3. So it's his race to lose at the moment.
Yeah, I like that mindset of thinking. Again, the big thing right here, though, for Nichols is he also, of course, inadvertently giving himself that tire advantage. Again, I mentioned him trying to play all offense. He's doing a good job of that and trying to utilize that clear track. But I think the big question is, if we can get a look, potentially, Cody, at Cody Richardson, what's going on with Cody Richardson around him? Because right now it looks like he has clear racetrack. But the question is, compared to what Nichols is having to deal with of a little bit of traffic, you got to wonder, could that play in a little bit of favor for Nichols a little bit, because he's able to get the draft and be maybe a little bit more conservative with fuel, where Richardson right now has really no one to pull off of if he's trying to save a little bit of gas, and is kind of right now in a land of his own at the moment.
It was a couple tenths that separated first and second there, and now as Nichols goes across the line, he made it a full second. That'll separate the lap times between these two drivers. But you're right, Richardson has a very clean track ahead. Not a whole lot to mention for him. He's just out here turning laps, doing what he has to do. He has slowed his pace down quite a bit. I mean, we go on board with him real quick. You just kind of see, you can kind of hear it. He's been braking a little earlier into the corners, been kind of rolling them just a little bit more and more. Not being overly aggressive here because, I mean, he doesn't have to be with a 20-second lead.
Yeah, he is not pushing this car to its limits. These things top out at RPMs at 8,000 RPM. He was barely above 6,500. So he is using the short shift, get as much tow as you can from the Audi in front of you, get around him. He is using the other tactic. Instead of using drafting, he is using the ability to run his own line, make sure he's comfortable in that race car, not use those tires up, because he knows Nichols is mathematically faster than him right now, and he knows that Nichols has the tire advantage. So if he can save not only some fuel, but also some tire on that Nissan, he should, knock on wood, be able to hopefully balance out that advantage that Nichols has.
We'll try to balance it out as we look at the best battle on the racetrack here with Sebastian Jackson. We've seen him in a couple issues here this afternoon. He's trying to work Stein there for the position right in front of him. That would be for P10 on the track at the moment. This is the first battle we've seen in ages. It feels like 84 years.
It does feel like 84 years, but Sebastian Jackson, let's not forget, had near chaos right before green flag pit stops. And you see him going to the bus stop. And again, this is where the patience comes in, right? You back up the corner, get a little bit of a run, but now you got to try to get that run back off to try to generate an opportunity to either get to his outside or get to the preferred lane off turn one. But I'll tell you what, Stein doing a good job getting back through the gears. Jackson just kind of has no choice right now but to try to lay back, try to get a little bit of pole, as it looks like Greg McKee, or oh goodness, McInerney. Thank you, Mr. Producer Man. Goodness, Terry, you're not the only one butchering names here tonight. But overall, you got to be patient, and right now for Jackson, that he has no choice but to do that with Stein, considering his car does not seem to achieve the highest of top speeds.
Yeah, it doesn't need to really do much as we go on board with Greg. He's our one with the VR Direct Drive Fanatec wheel. I will say that he's been holding a very pretty line across the board here, doing what he has to do, and look how smooth he's been here. Just his VR headset, just doing his thing. Kind of. What happens if you're if you got to shake a booger or something?
Terry, I hate to tell you, you gotta shake, you gotta pick your nose, you gotta do whatever. You risk crashing a car. Any head movement. And I know you can't see it exactly from this view. Of course, we don't see the driver's exact POV. Of course, we see on board with them, but not exactly what the driver is seeing with the VR goggles. But again, I give drivers that utilize VR so much credit, because while, yes, you get a full field of view, it's not easy when you're looking around left and right. Even when he just sit there to look to his left, see if anyone's around, look at his fuel number, that could be dangerous, because you take your eyes off the road just for 1 second, something could happen in front of you, you could miss a corner and so on. It's a dangerous game you play, but he's doing a real good job being conservative, and it looks like doing a little bit of checking his mirror as well as, ooh, we have a car off the track.
That is the 04 machine. That would be Jonathan Diggs again. He has spent more time in the dirt than a kid.
He's digging, no pun intended. He's digging a hole, at least in that sector of the course. As Mr. Producer Man used a Trayvon Diggs reference to the Cowboys. But overall, either way, right now, Jonathan Diggs continuing on. And I'll tell you what, oh goodness, as McPherson goes off, did a little drift. kept it straight, and he gets right back on the concrete, which is huge.
Kind of like the Bengals kicker, Evan McPherson, and how perfect that slide was. Kind of like our boy over there in Cincinnati, who I don't believe has missed a kick this season.
Yes, he has. He absolutely
well,
has. He missed it in overtime, opened the season against Pittsburgh. Yeah, that Pittsburgh game earlier on the year.
Right, the Pittsburgh game that he lost the season up there.
Yeah, that's. Can't believe the Steelers won that game, and I'm a Giants fan, so it doesn't impact me. But you get the point.
It happens. You take a look here, and now look, Greg McEnany having a good battle up there in front of him for the 37th position.
I'm proud you could say that name because I can't.
I heard you. He's going to go try to catch Jason McSparron. See, this is the awesomeness of being lead, and hopefully people understand this. Not the smartest person in the room, actually. The two that are with me are a whole lot smarter than I am. But the good part is when y'all butcher a name or whatever, I just get to hear you say it, and then I just sit over here and clap, like that the repetition, whatever in your little English class. I kind of do that, and that's normally what gets me there. But this battle separates here as the Nissans work their way in here. And I'm in my text group with my sisters and hopefully and my wife. Hopefully they're still tuned in. No!
Is that Diggs?
Right when I was about to bring out the DMs.
I was just about to say, I think that's Diggs again. That just got a nose full of Redeker. And we need to see a replay of what just happened there.
What a shot of the water, though.
That's a beautiful
Lake
shot.
Boyd looking nice.
Hey, I got to ask the question at this point. Oh, my goodness. I thought that was in the infield. That was right before the bus stop.
That was on the bus stop.
Goodness. So, will anyone land at Lake Lloyd tonight at this point? As, oh, boy, it looks like maybe a little bit of crabbing as well for Redeker.
We're going to take the replays. You see only the top 10 is still in the lead lap in this race in general. So you see the 462 of Redeker. See, it took him saying it in my ear to get it. I got it. So Redeker going after here. And then we're creeping. It's going to happen anytime. The climax
the suspense.
is huge.
Hey!
He just turned him. Bam! Bam again.
Man.
Double whammy.
That's what we talked about earlier. You gotta keep your nose clean, and even if you do, you might get swept up in somebody else's mess. That was just unfortunate. Holy cow.
And by the way, that was not Diggs, to answer your question. That was Ernie Ludwig. So I didn't see the number the first time. I could have swore I thought I saw an 04, but that was definitely not the case. It was Ernie Ludwig involved in that accident.
Oh.
For everybody at home, we're not digging on anybody. We're just we're calling what we're seeing, and it's all in good fun. These guys are really great
similar
drivers.
Similar color cars too. That's the big thing. A lot of these guys have similar color themes, and we just came from that portion of the racetrack. That is very true. That's a very good point our Mr. Producer Man just made. They're all teammates. That's the other thing as well that makes it chaotic.
Well, I'll go back to my DMs as we have now situated all of our on-track issues here. You see Jerry Isaacs on the screen in the 51. He's the 35th machine, and based off there, he would be our 9th place car in the Audi class. My sisters, I asked them random things to talk about as Timothy Klaus goes off track in the 19th position in the 80 machine. The weather,
that's broken.
Grocery prices, birthdays. Anybody have any birthdays coming up out there in the chat?
Well, can we go back to the cloud incident there? He looked like he was coming back on the track and hit somebody, I think.
Potentially, we could see somebody else off the track.
I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get it, but
I think we have to start playing a game here today of who hasn't gone off track yet. I think every driver, including our leader, has gone off the track at one point.
I would have to agree. All right, we're looking for that incident.
My wife doesn't count. She put one in the chat. Birthdays. Hers is November 2nd. So she won't be here. So we don't get to celebrate that one. As I believe we're looking here, Mauricio Million. I thought we were at the replay there for a second. He's in the 5th position. He's actually trying to hold off Homan there for that spot for the position of the top 5 for the overall race. And what a rebound so far for the 222 guys. I mean, he's sitting 6th. He spun on the track. He spun on pit road. What else can he do in the last hour and 17 minutes?
I mean, he's got a spin coming across the start-finish line. It's the right thing to do at this point, right?
He's still got a chance at a podium. That's the big thing. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done for Holman, he's about to get himself potentially back in the top 5. And I do want to point this out. These guys still overall in the middle, not as much go Million at the moment, but Holman, Kotska, they're still running some times a little bit where they've been mixed around with Richardson, our leader. And also, if you wanted an update on Nichols as well, who currently sits in the 2nd spot, remember when we last checked in on him, he was 19.5 seconds down. Well, he's cut off about 7 more seconds. He's 12 seconds now behind and continuously 1.5 seconds faster per lap than our leader, Cody Richardson. So things are starting to slowly but steadily size up here. And I have a feeling, guys, by the time we get through the end of this 2nd pit stop, maybe about halfway to the 3rd, we very well could have a battle for the lead.
It is very dark outside now. Hopefully we can pull the weather up and see what the track temp has done, because we've gone completely nighttime. And it is overcast, so 68 degrees with the track temp at 70. The wind speeds really doesn't affect it here, so track temp's picking up some speed, and we've seen a lot of heavy speeds here so far, Mr. Packard.
Absolutely. These guys are going for everything they can. I wanted to ask a question, but first, I've got someone in chat saying Mark McFadden in the 07, the Nissan, is racing one-handed. He's got 2 working fingers on one hand and it was operated on this past Friday, excuse me. So that is a heck of a job. I know Cody and I know Will Duvall, the one-thumbed wonder, and he runs with a little bit of a missing digit. So one-handed around a road course, that's a heck of a feat. But Tim, I wanted to ask, now that we're watching McFadden with those headlights going, how annoying is it when you're a slower class car when somebody starts flashing those headlights at you?
You know what? It can get fun. I don't know how they monitor it in leagues in regards to if you penalize guys for being a little bit over the top with the flashing lights. But overall, if you're these Nissans, you definitely love to have them, considering the fact that it's really your only source of protection of letting these Audi guys knowing it's coming. And again, if I'm the Audis, I know it can get a little bit annoying, especially if you're racing for position, but you also have to remember, you don't have lights if you're in the Audis. Oh goodness, Kotska's going off the track.
This is the multiple times we've called the 047 off the racetrack. He falls back to the 7th place spot. He's over a full minute behind the race lead. So we would expect here soon, if the race lead continues the way that it's going, we've only got 9 drivers still on the lead lap here. Michael Lane back here in the 12th place position. He is down a lap. And unlike NASCAR that we're familiar with, there's no cautions here. So you don't get the opportunity to get the lucky dog or the wave around. You actually have to go earn it. You have to go past people on the racetrack, as that way he does. He goes to the 11th place position. He gets past Olsen, who's had a couple issues here, but he's still sitting in the 12th place position.
He's absolutely sitting in a 12th place position right now. And again, these guys looking for a top 10, and not a bad day at all, even if you sit a lap down right now, if you're Leonard Olson. But again, I mean, think about it like this. We're closing in towards the halfway point in this race. And how about you look at the rotors there of Michael Lane? You can tell these guys are braking incredibly hard. I mean, look at those babies glow. You don't talk about that too often in iRacing, but these guys are definitely giving it their all.
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, even going a lap down, still out here fighting for position. It's the last driver on the lead lap would be the 71 of Graham, as you see Brian Scribner on pit lane in the 22nd position. Not sure if this is shouldn't be scheduled, but finds himself down here. So he must be on pit road for a reason as the 70 machine is going along there. You see, take a look here at Bryce Roberts in the 723, currently sitting in the 29th position on the racetrack. That would be for the 6th position in class for him. If I was going, Vela, Dino Vela, 32nd. He's not getting back up to speed here.
I think he's trying to also get out the way, but again, I mentioned dangerous spots. He is definitely in a dangerous
stuck
spot.
out of gear.
Oh yeah, it is definitely stuck out of gear. Goodness. I don't know. I wonder if he's using a shifter, maybe. He is definitely not. The car doesn't seem wounded because obviously he's able to get on the gas, but it's like he just can't get the clutch to work. He can't get the reset. He's trying everything he can right now for Vila, and unfortunately for him too, it's been a very tough day. There he goes. He finally got first gear.
What a. You know, I had that in my notes that those Audis had a very long clutch and very temperamental. I didn't think I would have to bring it up, however. Very interesting. Sometimes when you're shifting through, it gets stuck in neutral, and I think that's what happened.
I guess I can say that I have added this to things that I've seen while I'm calling a race. I got the one-hand bandit. I'll put that down in my notes. With missing digits. I never thought I would hear that on the broadcast. And I never thought that I would see somebody stall a running car coming out of a corner. I'll put it down as things that I've seen, and we'll have this one for years to come. I'll make sure to clip this portion of that of this broadcast, because this was the hour 10 mark. But the good part is we are at the hour 10-minute mark, and we're going to take you to a commercial break.
This is our series,
So many different pieces that you have to watch out for.
where the stakes are always higher,
$300,000.
where virtual meets reality,
How bad do you want it? They're wasting no time getting at it.
where the best thrive and the flawless win. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Hey, it's broadcast personality Wesley Outlet up topside at one of the great racetracks of the world, the Caraway Speedway. And I'd like to remind you to join us every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern with coverage of Finish Line, where we talk to everybody from NASCAR to grassroots, like right here at Caraway Speedway. Carolina's Fox Sports Radio affiliates, iHeartRadio, and on the Community Radio Network at 87.5 FM. And remember, thanks to Live Sim Racing Productions, you can actually see the guest panel, ask their questions, get interactive with us with comments, and so much more in our chat box. Finish Line every Wednesday. Join us every week.
Your CRN, my CRN, our CRN. We are CRN. The Community Radio Network now and the new WCRN 87.9 FM. And still always anywhere worldwide at wearecrn.com. We are CRN. Welcome to the Community Radio Network. Follow us always via social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CRN Sports. Plus, listen to the new CRN 87.9 and still anywhere worldwide at wearecrn.com. We are CRN.
Well, if you thought this race couldn't get any more dramatic, you see the driver going off the racetrack while we were in our side-by-side. Well, then we had even more breaking news coming into it. The 55 makes contact with the 35. And so what we thought was an 8-second gap was going to separate the 064 of Richardson and the 55 of Nichols. That is stretched all the way back out to 14 seconds. We'll welcome you back to the broadcast booth for just a second. I'm Terry Radford, joined alongside Tim Moore and Brockton Packard. We're pleased to bring you the Major Series, brought to you by Majors Garage. And we got a driver on pit lane. Do we have a bingo card tonight by chance, anybody?
I should have made one. I should have made a bingo card as Andrew Kotska has come down for his second pit stop, and he's had an interesting journey of a day. But needless to say, for Kotska, after a somewhat of a clean run here, despite only going off the track once or twice, he's going to come down, take 4 fresh tires, and try to get out. But the big thing here, we talk about the timing window. We have an hour and 6 minutes left on the timer. These guys are all going to have at least one more stop after this. And for Nichols, I think the big thing there, obviously you mentioned his incident with the 35. Overall, I think that's going to be a little bit detrimental, because now this is going to allow Richardson to save a little bit more gas, be a little bit more patient. And for Nichols, who was basically able to cut that gap down to almost a near 7 seconds from 19 seconds down at the start of the stint, he's going to have to restart all over again to try to get back to the lead, and he's going to need a full pit stop and more to do it.
See, the lead has now grown. It's 16.5 seconds, and Buchanan's actually closing the gap to the 55 machine. As you say, Javier Torres, the 47, back there in the 28th position. He has went off the racetrack. What's our off-track counter? Anybody got one?
Well, it's in a counter, or cars just simply going off track. Well, so Matt Gelder has apparently been off 22 times in this race. But if we have an incident counter, Joseph Homan's been off 18 times. But 8 of that has to come in the pit. Kotska off the track 6 times to make it another time. He's going to get an off track. He has nowhere else to go. All right, so Kotska, right on cue, makes it 7X now. Who else do we got? That's 14 for, is it Lung, I believe? Yeah, the Lung. Oh, wow.
Yep,
what, is it Lung? Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's my first time here, too, so Ken Lung, he's off. Horvath, really now Horvath, I don't think that's all off tracks, because remember Horvath spun earlier on before the first pit stop, where we watched him loop it right in that corner from near contact. So for Nick Horvath, and by the way, very, very quietly good run despite all the incidents he had early on in this race. Horvath right now, he's, I believe, if my math serves me right, he is right in the mix of being in that, well, right now he's in a podium spot, at least in terms of the Audis. Kotska again.
Whoa, Kotska.
But I was going to say, for Horvath, he has a good chance of trying to get up there.
I mean, he's only 34 seconds behind, boys.
Horvath is top 3. And there goes Joseph. These cars are starting to not handle too great.
Well,
it's almost like as I say, it's almost like as the track cools down and gets faster, the less the grip of the cars tend to be at the moment as these tires get older. And I do want to point this out. Through everything we see going on, of course, right now, Cody Richardson, Murphy Nichols, they're 1-2. The fall-off guys, from what we've seen compared to last run, remember we talked about guys running 136s, 137s? Oh, goodness! Sebastian Jackson! That's a big impact! Oh, my goodness! A little bit of bump drafting. You can't do that on these road courses. Come on now!
Especially not in the bus stop.
Absolutely not, but the fall off for our front 4 right now has only been a total of about 1.5 seconds on the lap times. So really, as this track's cooled down, a lot of these guys have been staying at the similar speeds throughout the entire run compared to what we saw in that first run.
Yeah, so I was talking about it. I was talking about this earlier, guys. These Audis do not have lights. They don't have front end light. So you're going into this infield with some, parking lot lights. And that's dark. It's very dark. Not only that, but you've got your mirror full of these Nissans flashing their lights at you. So you've got changing shadows. You can't really get a feel of where you're at. This is an insane view, and it's very, very dark on this infield portion.
We also have the lights on, too, production-wise. So it looks a little lighter at home than it does anywhere else.
What's the matter? Cody left the lights on for us? This
Probably.
Like right out of the Best Western commercial there, Terry. Oh, goodness, we have one off the pace. Oh, Motel 6.
I thought it was
I'm
Motel
sorry.
6.
Yeah, no. See, this is me not, being the most educated on commercials or hotels. Yeah, definitely do not travel.
We have a hotel aficionado up here.
I mean, I'll tell you what. We talked about aerodynamics at the top of this broadcast. I've never flown a plane. These guys' cars drove like an airplane at the start of this race. But with all the fun we're seeing on the racetrack right now, again, I asked them at the top of the broadcast when we first started seeing the spin, is there a chance we could see every single Audi, every single Nissan at some point have damage? Of course, we've seen everyone at this point go off track once, it feels like. But surprisingly, through all of this chaos, guys, we only have, we have only one car out of the race. That's James E.D., 41 laps down. We still have a bunch of cars still on the racetrack, and to be exact, between 1st to 41st in running order between both series. The furthest we have someone is 2 laps down, and there's a couple guys in the mix double digits laps down from 43rd and beyond. So really, despite of all what we've seen, almost everyone is still on the racetrack and in the mix at this point.
Yeah, we just creeped under the hour to go mark, so we have 59 minutes left in this race, and still got 17 watching. I guess we're entertaining somebody as Jerry Isaacs pulls slow there, and you go back to Don Donaldson in the 10th place position. He's had a couple issues here this afternoon, but for the people that are watching, I appreciate you for sticking around. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know if there's anything upcoming or anything maybe we can talk about as the racing has kind of ceased here.
So well, guys, our producer says he's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've got something here. Looking at timing and scoring, Murphy Nichols has dropped to 16 seconds behind Richardson, who has just now gone down pit road. But Doug Buchanan is now only 2 seconds behind Murphy Nichols. He was 20 seconds or more just a few laps ago, so that aero damage has affected that 55 a lot.
Well, this is going to make me ask this question because remember, Brockton, at the start where ultimately Nichols said, "Oh, I blew an engine." Well, guess what? We're going to find out now if he definitely really blew an engine or not, because theoretically he shouldn't have a fast repair left if we're following that mindset, which means Nichols here would have to come down and take that optional damage if he doesn't want to be at a disadvantage. So I think really this pit stop is going to give us a real true answer to that question we had within the first 15 minutes of this race.
Yeah, and right now he's cycled up to the lead because Buchanan and Lung have come down, those three teammates, all on pit road at the same time using that same strategy. Nichols can go about 5 or 4 laps longer than those three, so we'll see if he stretches this out to lap 60 as he's passing a little bit of a slower car in the Audi. He's going to have probably the most interesting job out here. This is the least amount of cars he's been around all night. He has been mired back in traffic literally all night, so he's going to be able to kind of see what his car can do as he's... Whoa, look out. That's the Miller Lite machine going a little bit sideways there. Still a little bit too much to drink, I think, Terry.
Well, I'll turn to the chat for a second as the racing has kind of once again ceased here. Sally Hammond said that we talked about as Murphy Nichols. He does come down pit road, so this is the true test that we're going to see if he does have the fast fruit. But she said Mark McFadden, as Tony mentioned, racing after having surgery on his hands. You may not know it, but he is 74 years old and having a good drive here this afternoon with one hand. I've had hand surgery before as well. Kind of feel that. It's definitely not fun to be one-handed. People sort of pick on you. Oh, you can't pick that up. Well, wait a couple months and I'll be able to do it. But he's on pit road for the right amount of time. We'll see the damage on the right side of that vehicle and see if he took it or not.
That damage hasn't gone away.
Well, I'll say it like this. One thing to take note as well, while the damage hasn't exactly gone away from Nichols, guys, I'm really surprised here that he's come down when he has, because remember, he pitted about 4 laps after the group of leaders of Richardson the last time by in the first pit stop cycle. Remember, he came down earlier on. He only pitted a lap after Richardson this time. So with that being said, did Richardson just save that much amount of fuel to really get himself within that window of Murphy Nichols?
No.
Would be a good question.
Is your answer.
Oh, that's a quick answer.
That last run was a 28-lap run for the former leader, and it was a little bit less than that for the 55. I think the 55 decided to come in because he knew he was losing so much time with that damage. His crew beat that left side of the car, or the right side of the car down as much as they could in that short amount of time. So I think it was sit in pit road a little bit longer, beat that side of the car out a little bit more, and try to get it a little more under control.
I also want to point out, you look at Murphy Nichols right now, he's only about 4 seconds behind Richardson. Richardson, something happened on his pit stop, guys. He had a 57.2. Nichols, again, having the fastest stop of the bunch, 44.05. You look further on back as well compared to Buchanan. Buchanan had a 48-second stop. So, again, even with the damage for Nichols, he's still the fastest pit stop of everybody.
Yeah, and that's having that extra 4 or 5 laps in the tank. He doesn't have to sit there for that 48 seconds to fill up the tank. He can leave sooner. So short-term loss, long-term gain, using that time to put that sheet metal back together and getting that couple of laps back.
Hey, we look at the actual the ticker there on the side. It's 3 seconds even. It's separating. Now it's under 3 as we look at Homan here, who's had multiple off-track incidents here, but still runs in the top 6. He could potentially walk out of here with a 5th place position as Gomillion. He's on pit road So we'll see where he blends out on the racetrack. But the infield portion is going to be the best option here if you're Nichols. You don't need a whole lot of speed in there. You just need a decent handling car to shoot it left and right. And then the straights could potentially be the biggest problem for him, Tim.
It absolutely can, and I want to point out as well for Homan, he had a real good pit stop as well, 40.43, but he was one of the earlier drivers to come down and hit the pits. But again, you're looking at it. I mean, look at those rotors glow as they head through the corners. You could tell these guys are hitting their absolute limits with the brakes, and you could tell Homan especially has had a real difficult day as we've seen him go off track a bunch. But I mean, these guys, they're putting all the wheel they possibly can into it and trying to optimize their speed for the straightaways. And Holman right now, after passing Go Million, who just came out of the pits for that 5th position, I don't know if he's going to be able to maintain it, but overall, considering everything that's happened for this 222 today, if he can walk out with a top 5 or even a podium when it's all said and done, because there's still a pretty long way to go left in this one with 52 minutes left, I think Holman would take this finishing result in a heartbeat.
I think he would take this position in a heartbeat as he catches some of the slower drivers on the field in the Audi machines. I kind of got to ask. We'll skip a little second. It's approaching Halloween. Favorite candy?
Ooh,
Well, guys, that 47 stuck out of gear again. Coming out of the pits, he was redlining it, so that's happened twice now. So that must be a little bit of an issue with the car.
You know what? I'm going to have to agree to answer Terry's question real quick with our producer, Cody. I think Reese's peanut butter cups are pretty darn good. I'm not going to lie, although, well, I can't have too much candy. I'm a little bit too big to do that. But overall, you know, I love me some good old Reese's peanut butter cups. That's like something I'd love to put on ice cream when I get it as well. But I also like, it sounds a little bit off or a little bit weird, but I also love me some Airheads as well. Airheads are just good, especially the apple one, the watermelon one.
What about you, Brockton? Favorite candy?
Oh, that's gonna be sketchy. Okay, that was very sketchy. That's a huge pack of cars, all in contact. There are leaders in that too. That blue and yellow car passing. That's
that
our
would make
leader,
sense. And now we're under
Cody
a
Richardson.
second with Nichols.
Yeah, don't look now. Nichols is right there. He's gonna try to get him.
Oh, contact
I'll
made.
answer my question here in a couple seconds.
Now we got to see if Nichols can step away.
Nichols got to get the run first here, Terry, as they work back to the straightaway to the bus stop. And here we go. Nichols is on the bumper, of course, about 5/10, making 4/10 back. He had a real good exit of the corner here as, oh goodness, that Timothy Klaus has gone off track. And ooh, that nose looks to have a little bit more damage than it had before. I'd like to go back to that battle for the lead because here comes Nichols as they head off a NASCAR 4 to the start-finish line. He's not going to have the biggest of pull, but I'll tell you what, he's going to have a real good opportunity through the infield where he's been strongest all day long to try to get to the bumper of Richardson here as they work into turn 1.
And he's going to catch lap traffic at the worst period of time. You see the flash of the light. There's a change for the lead. One of the first battles and one of the first passes we've seen, the 55 and Nichols. He goes around. Oh, and he goes around. Richardson almost loses it. He does.
He gets a big contact.
Unbelievable. I cannot believe what I just saw. And the 22 of Jason McSparron, goodness, he got picked up, went on top of a car. I believe Cody Richardson, despite that spin, actually avoided a lot of major contact. You see him wiggling left and right. I don't know if that's for him to try to heat up the tires or no. I think he's crab walking a little bit. So that's unfortunate for Cody Richardson, because not only did he just lose the lead, I think he very well may lose a top 5 result as a result of this one. That's a long way to go around the racetrack, guys.
Yeah, that is tough for sure. And his teammate spins behind him. Ken Long, it's a little bit tail happy, but that, yeah, he just went up in the air too, so he's definitely going to have a little bit of suspension damage on that car. But that changes a lot in this race. Richardson had a very good car. Nichols arguably had the most dominant car, but whew, we still got 47 minutes left in this race, guys.
Crazy to think was we all got excited, like you could feel the intensity was picking up. I'm sure most of us had just started like to lean forward and get excited to call the last 47 minutes of this race, and then in the matter of a moment, the battle for the lead and the win that we thought was going to be an epic battle between Nicholas and Richardson turns into Richardson coming down pit road to get the fast repair done and to come back on the racetrack. He's going to be well over 50 seconds behind here. Granted, this could potentially set him in a fuel window obviously different than everybody else. Is the pit lap here. Let's see if I pull my timing back up. That would be smart. Pit lap of 55 for them. We're on lap 60. So it'll be a 5-lap difference in between him and Nichols. How the race changes in a matter of an eye.
I think he can make it from here, though. That's the thing for Richardson. If I'm doing my math correctly, he's flashing lights on poor Mark McFadden.
So you think he can make it?
To your point, to Tim's point, he mathematically can make this. I did a little bit of math. He can make about 30 laps on a tank. They're running about a minute and a half and a couple second lap times. You divide that, and you get a fuel window of about 46 minutes. And guys, we've got 45 and just a little under a half to go.
Drama on the track, drama in the pit. Now you get to answer the question. Favorite candy?
So I got 2 of them. My chocolate category, I love me some Hershey's cookies and cream. And then my more not chocolate candy, they had caramel apple Micanites, and they were so good.
Rhonda A up there in the chat says
favorite.
Tootsie Rolls. Joke's on y'all, I've had like 10 Tootsie Rolls in the whole time of us calling this race.
Oh.
We've fallen off the tracks here. Producers drinking Red Bull. I'm eating candy. This is falling here.
Well,
Sorry,
I mean,
Wesley.
I'll say it like this, Fallen. I mean, hey, at least Cody hasn't had to deal with a fire yet today. I wonder if he's playing with his drones today, too. I'd imagine he probably has. I mean, we all remember what happened over the summer. Cody having to deal with forest fires practically every single day, you know, with the hot Wi-Fi and 135-degree temperatures. I know they can't hear you, Cody, but I'd have to imagine it's a lot better now in the fall as temperatures start to cool down compared to the fires you had to deal for the summer on the internet end of it. 93. It's raining like 57 here in New York, man. To be exact, 56 right now, and raining.
We look here at Martin Edmonds in the 42nd position. Not the night he wanted, 8 laps off the pace, but still fighting still out here hoping that things kind of turn to his way. Weather here actually was very cold this morning, and I believe we got up to a high of 65. So Savannah wasn't that great today either.
Well, I'd be amiss if I didn't mention one thing for you, because we haven't talked about it since, and I know it's a little bit off topic of racing, but how about Tennessee? How you feeling? You beat Alabama. Now you got a big game coming up soon with Georgia. Do you think the Vols can go all the way?
Okay, I almost cussed to the producer guy. I think they can. They have to beat Kentucky Saturday. Obviously, I've got a lot of Kentucky friends from the military that when I was at Fort Campbell, they were there. Obviously, I live in Savannah, Georgia, and I'm only 3 hours away from the home of the Dogs in Athens. I think this offense can score against anybody.
Whoa!
And oh no, Horvath again. Who hit him?
I think it's Richardson. Oh, maybe not.
You
It's
the second place car. Oh, and McPherson's off track again.
Ron McPherson's missing a hood.
Anybody want to
Where'd
draw
that thing
straws on who's going to fall off the track last? All I say is they beat Bama. That was the win of the season. They could lose to Georgia and win out, and I still think they make the college football playoffs.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ron's continuing on here with all that damage as he works to the bus stop. And I'll tell you what, I know we've seen a lot of incidents today, but that thing almost looks like it's taking a trip to Martinsville. I mean, at least it's going to be very good aerodynamically for him to slow down the corners. But that is definitely not something you want with that Audi, but at least it's getting a good little engine cool right now.
Well, he's going to come pit. I cannot wait for Martinsville week. I'll call my race tomorrow on Race Spot with RSR, and then to the C Open we go at 10:45. So if you're out there watching, you're on iRacing, 10:45 C Open tomorrow night. You catch your boy in there. I'm normally in second split, so I'm super excited. Tim, you're gonna have to join me.
I definitely am going to have to join Evan, trying to do some C Open as the weeks have gone on. But I also want to point out, you see Branson right now in the pits. Well, guys, it's the start of the second pit stop cycle for these leaders in the Audi class. So it's going to be interesting. Again, we could see the race decided in the pits as Andy Spicer is doing a lot of blinking and flying around here through the pits, but he's coming down as well for a stop. You know, one thing I've noticed, and maybe I mean, it could have a little bit to do with the blinking here, but I guess I'll ask. I've noticed a lot of guys, when they come down the pits, they still kind of keep their foot a little bit in it when the car goes back up on the jacks. Is there maybe a reason for that, of why guys like to do that in the pit stalls?
The answer to that is it could just be a force of habit. I know a lot of these guys are oval racers. They always have their foot in it, so when the jack drops, they can just go. It could be a visual glitch. iRacing's pretty good about that stuff, but it's not always perfect. And maybe it's to help that tire changer get that single lug off a little quicker. You know, just spike it at 8,000 RPM, thing flies right off. It could be, I don't know.
Oh, there goes Kyle Graham, our latest. I have
think
a
it's the
joke.
first time
I
Graham's
don't
gone
know.
off today.
I had a joke. I don't know how far it would go. I'm sure you could all, assume what my joke would have been. Carry on.
Anyway.
38 minutes to go. And Kyle Graham in the Dale Earnhardt Nissan scheme rides in the 8th place position here coming through the bus stop.
I'll tell you, that thing looks so gripped up to the ground, it almost looks like a Lamborghini coming through the corners with just how, you know, aerodynamic that thing looks. And again, Kyle Graham has had a very quietly solid day despite going off the track right there, and give him a lot of credit right now, currently running in the 8th position. As, oh goodness, Jeremy Morrison's going for another wheeling off the racetrack. I'll tell you what, my man would be a very good dirt driver. He has done some he's done a very awesome job of making some really good saves off through the grass and the racing surface. So give him a lot of credit, but I was just about to say, a lot of these guys, as you're looking at Robert DeLoach now, a lot of these guys around the top 5, they're still within an accident away of, you know, getting back, not maybe into the race for the win, but of getting a good result. And we're seeing that for a lot of these guys that currently sit 1 lap down right now. And I also do want to point out, Kotska, he's currently the last car left on the lead lap. You're going to likely see him and Gomillion eventually go a lap down as this race continues on. So really, right now for Nichols, this is practically his race to lose, as he has a lot of control of his fate right now.
He's got 37 minutes to go to claim victory in this race. And talked about Kotska and Gomillion still having to come down pit road. What about the damage to Richardson? That could be a storyline that follows on for the rest of the remainder of this time. Can he make it on fuel? What does the damage bring as he is starting to get closed in by Gomillion and Kotska, as he's going to go to look to the inside of the 4 machine there, and he'll make that pass happen as it is slower traffic to him. Well, Brockton, strategy, and here comes Buchanan.
Yeah, there's a lot of strategies here. Some of these guys won't be able to make it. So basically second and third probably aren't going to be able to make it. That's why Doug is coming down. I'm not quite sure if Nichols will be able to make it, given that he came down a few laps earlier than he probably should have. Tires aren't going to be too much of a change. As we've got 2 cars in a pit stall. not enough pit stalls for these cars in iRacing. There's about 50 competitors and only 43 pit stalls, so a couple guys have to share with some slower class drivers. Cody Richardson pit road. So this is money stop material right here. These guys coming in the pit road, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, all kind of pit road. Got to make this a good stop. Yeah, I don't know why. I guess maybe it's driver choice on if you want to have your foot on the gas or not.
So then I guess that answers our question, if Richardson can make it on fuel or not.
No, that would be his answer.
Question. But I'll also put it like this. Oh, goodness. Rob Courtney now is going off the racetrack. But you talk about the accidents, just how many we've seen. I thought one of the cars arcing wide to come into the pits. I thought someone was spinning in the middle of the pits there for a second. And it just gives you an idea of how easy these cars have been to loop around today. A lot of these guys getting aggressive into the pits. As you see a lot of guys flying around. Doug Buchanan, of course, back on the racetrack. He's now 1 minute and 12 seconds behind Nichols, who is still yet to pit. I'm eager to see what Doug can do here if he can make up a little bit of ground. Of course, Nichols is going to have the tire advantage. He's not going to make up that full 20 seconds. You know, he was behind in Nichols after the incident. But Doug has a good chance here to cut off some chunk of time and at least set himself up with that opportunity to pressure Nichols. If he could just do that, there's a good chance he could still have a chance at winning this race. There's a lot of pressure on Nichols to not make a mistake because, again, this is really his race to lose in this scenario of he controls his fate.
Well, I will tell you at 30 minutes to go, we'll step aside. And when we come back, we'll take you for the remainder time of the Majors event brought to you by Majors Garage. We look here at Doug Buchanan, P2. So we'll set your top 3, the only 3 on the lead lap. And yeah, it catches me by surprise too when I say it. Nichols, Buchanan, Gomillion, your top three. Everybody else, fourth on down, is off the pace by one. Medina is still your Audi leader. He has led virtually every lap of the Audi class here this afternoon. Nobody's really had anything for him, and I think that he would be the only one that we have not seen off track at some point in time, and there might be a couple others. But Nathan Medina doing what he has to do there in that number 2 machine, currently in the 21st position. He is 40 seconds ahead of Yedio, who is in 22nd position. So anybody had that on their score sheet, that the second class should be at 40 seconds, and you have a full minute and a half up there. You see Stacy Hunter in the 39 machine. We saw him spun and backed up in the riding shotgun machine. He was backed into a tough situation early in this race, but he moves on to that. I do believe that is the driver from PRL, so I get to call him twice in a week. And one of these is just a little bit longer, boys.
You know, the sponsor says riding shotgun, but I wonder who's riding shotgun with Stacy right now. If you think about it, I would love, well, it is a one-seater, but someone's got to be riding shotgun. It looks like there's space in there for two. I'd love to be riding shotgun in a race like this. Again, you get to go through all the bumps and the bangs. No goodness, Ron McPherson has gone off track almost right in front of, I believe that's Buchanan that just went around the 028 or 026 rather. So, again, I mean, a lot of these guys, they've been really going through it. But you know one thing that's really starting, I'd say, kick in for a lot of these guys is race goes That's gotta hurt.
Hardest hit we've seen all day. As you see Maurice Gomillion in the 3rd position. I would imagine he's guaranteed a podium at this moment. Round table discussion that he will make it there. We do have a minute to go before we will step aside for our final commercial break, our final side-by-side here this afternoon. This has been long, much longer than I anticipated.
It's been long, but you know what? It's been fun. We've seen a lot of things go on, and again, we're trying to have a little bit of fun too in regards to, yeah, those guys go off track. We're not picking off individually the drivers, but this is Daytona. You got to understand just how aggressive you have to be at this road course and how on edge these things are here. And again, this is a real tiring track. It may look like one of the easier tracks to drive. It has a lot of history, but I promise you folks at home, this track is as difficult as it gets, and that's the reason why it has so much high praise in a lot of the road racing circuits.
Well, we're down to 30 minutes to go. We'll step aside, come back. You're watching the Majors series on LSRTV, brought to you by the Majors Garage.
Your CRN, my CRN, our CRN. We are CRN. The Community Radio Network now and the new WCRN 87.9 FM. And still always anywhere worldwide at wearecrn.com. We are CRN. Welcome to the Community Radio Network. Follow us always via social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CRN Sports. Plus, listen to the new CRN 87.9 and still anywhere worldwide at wearecrn.com. We are CRN.
it's broadcast personality Wesley Outlet up topside at one of the great racetracks of the world, the Caraway Speedway. And I'd like to remind you to join us every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern with coverage of Finish Line, where we talk to everybody from NASCAR to grassroots, like right here at Caraway Speedway. Carolina's Fox Sports Radio affiliates, iHeartRadio, and on the Community Radio Network at 87.5 FM. And remember, thanks to Live Sim Racing Productions, you can actually see the guest panel, ask their questions, get interactive with us with comments, and so much more in our chat box. Finish Line every Wednesday. Join us every week.
This is our series,
So many different pieces that you have to watch out for.
where the stakes are always higher,
$300,000.
where virtual meets reality,
How bad do you want it? They're wasting no time getting at it.
where the best thrive and the flawless win. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Welcome back to the Major Series, brought to you by Majors Garage on LSRTV. I'm Terry Radford, joined alongside Tim Moore and Broxton Packard. I bring it back with 27 minutes to go. You saw the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series there. We talked about this a little roundtable earlier, and there was a point that, Broxton, you brought up of the Charlotte Phoenix team, first year, and they're in the Final Four with Graham Bowling. You said that's your pick?
You know, I've been lucky enough to go to their facilities a couple of months ago, and they were very fast with their Junior Motorsports versus Charlotte Phoenix program that they kind of put on. So I would have to say that would be my pick, but really any of these guys could get it done. Casey Corwin has been in this sport for a long time, very fast, and I mean any of these guys could. But if I had to pick, I would have to go with that number 48.
Well,
Thank you, Graham Bowling. Tim?
Terry, you know what? I would love you to go into the OCM server right now. And I would love you to go look at Mr. Graham Bowling. Oh, we have someone off track. But I'd love for you to go look at Mr. Graham Bowling's role, and then you'll figure out my answer.
I see if I can find him in the server. Is he online, potentially? Oh, I don't see him in there. See the leader on pit lane right at the moment. He should still cycle out to be the race leader, as the Buchanan and Gomillion have yet to pit as well. So racing's, I don't know if it's going to get any more intense. It's 25 minutes to go, and we did have a 20-second lead, but Brockton, he's waited a long time to come down pit lane. Where does this sit us here?
He can make it easily. He struggled that lap. He actually blew the bus stop on that last lap, so I think that was a good say-so on tires that they were probably ready to come off. He'll cycle out 20 whole seconds in front of Buchanan, and that gap will only get bigger as it looks like he's fixed quite a lot of that damage on that race car. Looks a lot better, actually. He might have actually used the fast repair, if I could say actually any more time.
Well, if he did, he played possum with a lot of people. He said
Yeah,
he blew
he
up
used
in
the
the
fast
first
repair.
portion. So he used it. So now he weathered the storm across the board. And so him following his own strategy worked. And for the fans that maybe want to know what the OCM server has Graham as, it's the 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing champion.
Hashtag I called it first.
You did?
Yeah, you know, I gave him that role 6, 7, 8 months ago, before he was even on Charlotte Phoenix. Okay.
That was a good pick from the producer.
Listen, and I will say this. Bobby Zelensky, whether you like him or not, in regards to, you hate to see someone constantly successful. We know a lot of fans are of racing, for example, with Kyle Busch. But Bobby Zelensky is a very talented driver, and he's been due for some success over time as Mark McFadden, unfortunately, going off the track again. But give him credit, he continues to dig on. And I think McFadden's in, the 19th position right now? So he's done a very good job actually gaining spots despite these last few laps going off track. I believe it's twice or 3 times.
I am going to pick Casey Kerwin. I think Casey Kerwin's going to win it. It's not a popularity contest out there, much to everybody else's chagrin, that they think that, it's a popularity contest and you only get a position in that series because, you got fans that watch you. Casey Kerwin can entertain his fans. He can win. And then he can also he has every phase of racing. He has everything that you want in a racer. And when you put him on a big stage, he's used to it. When you put him out there to the public, he's used to it. When you talk to him, he's a normal human being. Casey Kerwin by a mile wins Phoenix.
Yeah, and Terry, to your point, everybody thinks these guys aren't great and stuff like that. I had the honor and privilege of running with Garrett Lowe for the collegiate iRacing series that they did a few weeks ago, or a couple days ago, in the B-class race, and let me tell you what, he is one of the fastest drivers I've ever driven against. He is a mile above everybody around him, so to be in that series, you have to be the best, and those guys are, and that top 4 is the best of the best, so anyone, that's a hell of a lap, so, yeah, wow, 132.61 for Nichols.
I was actually proud. I thought I had heard that in my ear as well. But you referenced the eNASCAR College Series. I was fortunate enough to be on that call with James Pike and Joshua Lee. So it was really cool to see a lot of people out there on the racetrack there having a good time at Auto Club. It was a fun time to call as Sebastian Jackson comes down pit road. Not a factor in the race towards the latter part of this evening. Cody Richardson, who we thought was going to walk away with this win there after the issues with the 55, ends up not having issues of his own. He's 58 seconds behind the race lead. And for the last 20 minutes, it is, barring an issue, it looks like the 55 is going to walk away with this win pretty handily, but this is going to be a great week for iRacing. And you think about tonight, we have the major series. Tomorrow, the prep work for the Coca-Cola iRacing series, and then Tuesday, the big event. And then we go into more planning just to see what the contender starts up. I don't know who everybody's picks to leave contender to go to the Coke series is going to be, but that's going to be an entertaining time. Still waiting to hear who's gonna be on the call for those races, and who is going to put those races on to be shown to the public. But, a lot of cool things in the iRacing world. And if you're watching at home or you tune in to the major series here on LSRTV and you're looking on how to get onto iRacing, you go to iRacing.com, and for new members, it is 40% off. And we also have the Christmas special that's going to be coming up here soon, or the holiday special, I'm sorry. It's going to be coming up. The Black Friday event's coming up, where they're going to offer even more money off for subscribers, resubscribers. There's tons of awesome things happening in the iRacing world, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying it because I have to. I'm saying it because I really enjoy this service, and I hope that everybody else goes in here and enjoys it too. Oh, Daniel Howard!
Woo! Having some fun
folks,
here.
But by the way, I'll put it like this: if you're listening to broadcast, you don't have iRacing. A, you've been missing out. Where have you been? But also B, I listen to Terry very strongly about those Black Friday deals, because I'll tell you, when I got on iRacing back in 2016, I would have loved to have one of those deals for Black Friday, because back then, iRacing deals were hard to come by. You only got them about once or twice a year, and needless to say, for anyone that's just getting into the platform, that's your best chance to get into the, to get into the iRacing world for relatively cheap, and getting an understanding of what all the iRacing, hype and deal is about. And I promise you, it's worth every penny.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, this is my second year on the service. I have learned a ton about everything. I mean, we're coming up. I believe I'm going to go pull the tweet. They have collectively turned 5 billion laps on iRacing. That's across leagues, officials, across the board. 5 billion laps turned on the iRacing platform, and tonight we turned 70 more of them.
Hey, I was going to say, not to interrupt, Terry, but I was going to say, remember at the start of this race, we were tracked to do about 15 billion more than what iRacing
That's accurate. Yeah, we were
true.
going to be in the 2 million times. I forgot that we were at like 200 and something million laps that we were going to see turn around Daytona. And Joe Homan said it best. His son got the pole, made every mistake in the book, and then wrecked. I could just imagine what this race would look like with 200 million laps around the Daytona road course. I don't think anybody would finish. Hell, I don't even think we would be here.
Well, that's a long, long time. You said, we'll see you on Tuesday, pay us overtime there. We would be here for at least, because think about it, a 24-hour Daytona, you're lucky in the LMP2s and so on if you're doing 500 to 600 laps throughout the whole span. We'd be here for a while, Terry. We'd probably be here for a couple years. But then that's exaggerating it a little bit.
We'd have a crew swap somewhere in there. I'm sure our fearless leader over here at LSRTV wouldn't leave us, on a microphone. I'm sure my microphone would die before we ever even got that far into this race. We got 16 minutes to go in this event. 28-second lead. It's growing for Nichols. You see Patrick Stein right here. Almost got rear-ended there. Michael Lane hard into the tire barrier there, back in the 15th position. Wrong lane indeed, producer guy. That was good. It's multiple laps down, so everybody from Jackson on back, multiple laps down. Everybody from Lot Ridge up, 1 lap down, or on the lead lap. I picked a bad time to wear long sleeves for a show. It's all going downhill from here.
Well, Terry, I got some numbers for y'all. If we were scheduled to run 200 million laps around Daytona, using last year's Daytona 24-hour lap count, which the winners ran 761 laps, we would be running 262,812 Daytona 24 hours.
Oof. I ain't even got to call
Put that
one
on
yet.
precise.
Yeah, I haven't got to call one yet. I'm sure I will this year on Race Spot. At some point in time, you'll hear me calling a Daytona 24. I'm sure I'll feel like a fish out of water, but whatever. It's all in for good fun.
Also, Terry, you were talking about that contender series. I'll give you a name to watch out for. Tucker Minter. You probably had to say that. You probably had to say his name a couple times on Tuesday night last week.
Oh, yeah.
He is a UNCC Charlotte student and a coach for our iRacing team that'll be competing over on the CIL eventually next season. But he is wicked fast. I would love to see him and Garrett Lowe on the same team because they are just wicked fast.
I was just about to ask that because it is Tucker and Garrett that have to race each other in the college series every time in qualifiers to end up making, the main split because only one college can relatively represent. So I'm assuming, obviously, those are the two that both go to the same college and end up having to end up facing off against each other practically in every qualifier, if my memory serves me correct.
Yeah, UNC Charlotte has 6 students that are all fighting at the battle of the how to get faster than 2 of the best drivers on the service at the moment, and they have pretty civil talks by the time it's 1 or 2 days to go, when they're legitimately the top of the board and within thousandths of seconds of each other. They go, all right, you get this one, I'll get the next one. So Tucker gave Garrett the Roval this week, so you'll see Garrett Lowe for UNC Charlotte at the Roval this next race. So yeah, it's a bit demoralizing when you run a lap that you think is really good and you're 0.3 off your closest competitor.
I will say about Tucker Minner, I don't get very close to drivers. It's not my style broadcast-wise. I normally am a bit more reserved when it comes to talking to people. He has to be one of the most down-to-earth people that I've ever talked to across the service. Like, you have a conversation with him. He knows he's fast. He understands the situation he's in. I'm excited to see what he does in Contender. I'm excited to see the new crop of talent coming into Coke. You've seen a lot of retirements being announced throughout the time this season. You have drivers that are falling away from the series and just want to get to officials and just want to, go focus on other things. I would love to see a guy like Tucker Minner in the Coke Series challenging up there with Garrett Maines, Busa, Leahy, and all of those great drivers that's there already. I'm very, very excited for a guy that I'm going to throw out there, Kevin King. That's another driver that I think before Contender's over, a lot of people, he is an ex-Coke driver. You're going to see him back as our Miller Lite driver. He's still off the road.
Yeah, I knew you were not going to try to attempt,
I wasn't even going to try it.
I knew you weren't going to try.
Not even trying it.
I
didn't want to sound like I was drinking.
It's call-balling, but overall, either way, Don Dolson's in the pits. Here's Daniel Howard. As you see the dog bear all over.
I'm at least glad that you knew I wasn't going to say it.
I realized once you avoided it the first time.
What can you say? It's been a minute, and I think now that Cody's just testing us to see, if we're just going to say it. I mean, he's pulling shots out and giving us great camera angles all race long. He's done everything that we've asked him to do. A great producer on this side of the house. And it's weird that nobody can hear him. I still don't understand how the production thing works. Is none of them hear what he says to us, but through the entire time of this race, he's been trying to crack us up and trying to break us. He's broke me a couple times over here. So the modern technology nowadays is Daniel Howard sits in the 20th position. We go to Chris Branson sitting 29th. He is the 5th driver in his class in the Audis, as it's still all led by Medina on that side. It has not stopped being led by one driver. I believe for the majors, if we'll have to fact check this one. This would be the first time somebody's went wire to wire in a class.
Well, it very well could be, but for Medina, I mean, he's just been clean sailing the entire way through, and that Audi looks, absolutely beautiful. You can see the black and yellow all the way through. I mean, there is not a single scratch on that thing, which again, I literally think he is the only driver. And Cody, could we get an X count on Medina, by the way? Because I would 6. That is
6.
remarkable. That is absolutely remarkable. And that all has to be bus stop X's. Let's be honest. That may be the only car that is truly, as he's getting, the lights flashed at him double time here, that may be truly the only car that has not legitimately gone off track today.
And those two that happened for Richardson could have just been the incident that was in turn 1. So Brockton, I'll bring you back in for a second. We'll, as we wind down with 8 minutes to go, everybody's good on fuel. Everybody's happy and full. Any good anecdotes for us?
I mean, right now it's just hold your line and be smooth. Take what you got. Don't wreck yourself in the last 10 minutes. You've already come this far, so let's not ruin it now. I'm going back into our archives a little bit to see if there was possibly another wire-to-wire finish. One that might stick out in my mind was the Silverado 250 over at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, where our good buddy Medina was in the lead for a large portion of that race. So, if it has been done before, I think it's been done by the same person.
He could break his own record if it was a thing. So we'll fact check that with the Majors series. I mean, this series has been around for seems like forever, right? I mean, this is one of the we talked about college football for a little bit, and you think about the series on iRacing. If fans at home are listening and they want to come join a series, well, there's a couple that stick out. I mean, you hear about the Majors, you hear about PRL, RSR, think of Monday Night Racing. I mean, you think of all of these series that are in the realm of iRacing that have mainstream attractions. I mean, Monday Night Racing has people from Shane Van Gisbergen all the way down to Ron Capps. Christian Ekish has joined them for a couple races. RSR has future Coke drivers. You have contender drivers in there. You have people who have contended for Road to Pro at some point in time as Maurice Gomillion comes down pit lane for his final stop. But the PRL, they have drivers who have competed in Road to Pro and has made contender. I mean, they have 5 nights a week they race at the PRL. It's one of the longest standing leagues on iRacing across the board. There are so many great communities within this platform that allow so many different things. I mean, you think of broadcasting companies. You got Podium, you got Race Spot, you got LSRTV, Racecraft, Freaky Fast. I mean, there's so many, and I'm sure that might have got me suspended or fired for saying that name, but there's a lot of places out here on this platform that you can either be heard or be seen, and that's what makes this platform so special for people.
And I do just want to point out, I'm not sure what happened there with Max Gomillion, or say Maurice Gomillion rather, who came down the pits. He pit a lap before, if my math serves me right, of Nicholas Murphy, or my goodness, Nicholas Murphy. Murphy Nichols, our leader, and needless to say, it wasn't. Yeah, it definitely wasn't you, but it definitely was not a case of he couldn't make it on fuel, it seemed. So I don't know why Gomillion was down in the pits, but whatever the case is, he's fallen down to the 7th position after his pit stop.
Got 4 minutes to go. If you've been with us for the 2.5 or 2.4 hours that we've been here on the air, you have seen an up and down roller coaster of a style race. We've seen numerous off tracks. multiple crashes, pit strategy. If you could dream it, it's happened. I don't know if this is more entertaining than the Cup race that happened this afternoon, as that one was a very one-sided race, I guess I could say, but still entertaining, to say the least. The lines at Homestead were phenomenal. As you see the battle for 28th position between Torres, I can't see the number of the driver behind him, but this looks to be pretty well taken care of right here. See the 199, that's Chris Branson trying to get to the 28th position. The lead, there isn't a fight for the win in the top class here this afternoon. The overall win has been all but locked up unless something catastrophic happens in 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And Medina has, I would say, locked up the Audi class as well, as he is 45 seconds ahead of Yedio, and 60 seconds, almost a full minute, ahead of Gargano. And I guess, Brockton, 1 to go this time, or 2 to go?
It'll be right around 2 to go this time by, and as we got Chris Shearburn off the track, hang on to her, Chris. He's got it gathered back up and getting that 135 back under power, but it'll probably be 1 to go, not this time, but next time by, as we still have just above 2 minutes to go as our leader's just on the back stretch. So 1-2 more laps probably.
Across the line. Should be about 1:30-ish when he crosses that line, so we might see the 1 to go. We don't know. We'll see it when you see it. When the lights come on, that's a good thing about road racing. You never know when the lights decide to change, as he will cross this at 1:32 on the dot. We didn't get a white flag signal, so there'd be 2 to go. He'll cross the line again somewhere and get it to go our final lap. His time will still be on the board when he comes back around. He's ran a eventful race, Tim.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he definitely has ran an eventful race, has Murphy Nichols, and for him to turn around after, again, we don't know if he blew up or not, but as oh goodness, Javier Torres has now just nosed that dog bear machine into the outside wall. But, you know, it's effective. Do we know if he blew up or not? That I don't know. But needless to say, for Murphy Nichols, he's done such a good job digging back, getting to the lead, you know, taking advantage of the incidents between Buchanan as well as Richardson and even Kotska. I mean, everyone in this top 5 has had an incident at some point today, including Nichols. And the fact that he's able to potentially walk away with the win here today, I mean, it's just an absolutely remarkable run. As long as he, after this, I think you're going to take the white flag this time, as long as he can keep the nose clean, it's a spectacular win for this 55 for sure.
It has been a phenomenal drive, rebounding from adversity, having issues across the board. And he still charged on. He still did what he had to do. And there's the checker flag. Nichols wins the race in undramatic fashion, in the most anticlimactic way possible. A 39-second win, and there's Nathan Medina. He will be your Audi class winner as he overall finishes 21st. I believe that was ahead of a couple of the Nissans out there. So what a spectacular drive.
And Medina 45 seconds ahead of the next car behind them. A dominant performance for Medina this afternoon, or say this evening rather.
He kicked some butt this afternoon. I'll wait for the producer in my ear to tell me what we're doing next. Oh, sounds like we're gonna party. we'll look through your finishing results here as everybody's starting to cross the line. You got Nichols, Buchanan, Richards, Kotska. That's the only ones that finish on the lead lap here so far in the major series. Lung, Graham, Deloach, Gomillion, Jackson, Lottridge rounds out your top 10.
11th is Don Dolson. 12th, Andy Spicer. Patrick Stein comes home 13th. Michael Lane, 3 laps down, 14th. Stacy Hunter, good, quiet, solid day for Stacy, comes home 15th. Ryan Shrivner comes home 16th. Rob Courtney, didn't talk much about Rob today. He finishes 4 laps down, 17th. Timothy Klaus comes home 18th. Mark McFadden, again, we talk about a story for McFadden, driving, after a whole hand surgery and driving, I think, what was it, two fingers on one of his hands? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just a remarkable, performance for driving with one hand today for Mark. He comes home 19th. Daniel Salim Howard, he had trouble early on. I believe it was on lap 1, if not lap 2 of the race. Ends up rebounding somewhat nicely, but it's still not the best results. Comes home 20th.
Touch some highlights here. Nathan Medina, obviously the highest running Audi, finishes 21st. Yetio, Ludwig, Gargano right there. Horvath had a bunch of major issues this afternoon. Branson drove off track a couple times. Torres, Isaacs, we've seen him down there in 30th. Shank jumped off the page here, 32nd. Santana, McSparron, Morrison, I'll try this. James Collaby had a couple issues there in the 34th position. Whatever.
I don't think anybody had a bigger moment than Vila, though, this race. Dino Vila had by far the moment to remember.
We'll go to the last bit here. McPherson had a struggle here this afternoon. Gelder, Roberts, Paulison, Diggs, Vega, Burke, Cardamon, yeah, that sounds good. Dean and Trozen back there rounding out your 50 car field. Is we've got. We'll do final thoughts. That sounds good. A little disorganized. We're used to being led by Wesley. Kind of a spot here. Tim, I'll start with you. Final thoughts of a 2.5-hour race.
Yeah, you know what? You said this race was going to be long, Terry. I didn't feel like it was long enough. I thought it was wonderful. I really do truthfully think this race was, had a lot of excitement. And despite, the finishing results being spread out, and of course, Nichols comes home with a massive, massive victory today, this story kind of really self-navigated itself as the day went on. A lot of guys found trouble, battled through adversity. And again, it's much different in a 2.5-hour race than it is to a 24-hour race. And we saw tires, we saw strategy all come to play. But at the end of the day for Nichols and Medina, a dominant performance, especially in the end of Medina, which I think is going to go very underlooked. I think there's a lot to be proud of on that end. And listen, for guys that had, some difficult days, and especially Richardson, I know he may have a sour taste in his mouth as he felt like he had control of this race. Listen, you race for the first time in a month. I think there's only one more race left after this. You'll learn how to battle through adversity, and you'll learn how to store that in for the next time. And I think if you're Richardson, you're absolutely doing that the next time out. I think he's going to be the one to look out for come the next race.
Well, in Brockton, your strategy was on point.
Yeah, I'll keep my thoughts to a minimum here. I think Murphy did a great job battling through adversity, going from possibly some strategy playing out in the first 5 laps or some misfortune. He had a lot of contact with a couple of the slower cars throughout the night, had the fastest car throughout the night easily. The 2 of Nathan Medina, absolutely amazing run, wire to wire. He did a great job in that number 2 Audi. It was fun, man. It's probably the longest I've ever broadcasted with LSRTV, and I hope that I'll be able to do this again next season. But we've got another race not only tomorrow night for the Northwest Cup Series, but also in a few weeks' time for the last race of the Major Series on LSRTV this season. So I'm excited for that one too.
Well, and we'll start the post race here as we do have both of our overall winners here this afternoon. We'll pull Murphy Nichols down and see if we can catch a word with him. Oh, my fault. We have to swap. So we're going to go to a commercial break and we'll come back for post race.
Your CRN, my CRN, our CRN. We are CRN, the community radio network now and the new WCRN 87.9 FM. And still always anywhere worldwide at wearecrn.com. We are CRN. Welcome to the Community Radio Network. Follow us always via social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CRN Sports. Plus, listen to the new CRN 87.9 and still anywhere worldwide at wearecrn.com. We are CRN.
This is our series,
So many different pieces that you have to watch out for.
where the stakes are always higher,
$300,000.
where virtual meets reality,
How bad do you want it? They're wasting no time getting at it.
where the best thrive and the flawless win. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Hey, it's broadcast personality Wesley Outlet up topside at one of the great racetracks of the world, the Caraway Speedway. And I'd like to remind you to join us every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern with coverage of Finish Line, where we talk to everybody from NASCAR to grassroots, like right here at Caraway Speedway. Carolina's Fox Sports Radio affiliates, iHeartRadio, and on the Community Radio Network at 87.5 FM. And remember, thanks to Live Sim Racing Productions, you can actually see the guest panel, ask their questions, get interactive with us with comments and so much more in our chat box. Finish Line every Wednesday. Join us every week.
Welcome back to the Major Series presented by Majors Garage on LSRTV. I'm Terry Radford, Tim Moore, and Brockton Packard. I'm standing by with the overall winner and Murphy Nichols. And Murphy, congratulations on the win. It kind of wasn't that dominant. You had issues and then you battled back.
Yeah, so it was funny I think it was either lap 5, somewhere around lap 5, I downshifted into the bus stop and my engine blew up. It was either engine or transmission, something like that. And then I snuck over to the Red Bull garage, stole one of their engines, slapped that in the back of the Nissan, and then continued on out from, I think, around P22 or something like that. And then just slowly carved my way up the field. I knew I had a lot of pace, especially in the infield. I can make a lot of moves and I can make the car stick. I also knew that straight line I was pretty good. I don't know if I was necessarily the fastest car in a straight line, but I definitely was not the slowest. Picked up a little bit of damage as the race went on, but that's kind of expected with a race like this. You're going to get a little bit of damage, but luckily with how the pit stops are, I was able to fix it all up. And then I just kept my head down, tried to minimize mistakes. I know I made one kind of crucial mistake in the bus stop, trying to avoid a P2 that had spun, but other than that, I just kept my head down, ran my race clean, tried to stay out of any sort of trouble, and ended up coming home with the win.
Well, I mean, you only can say you've won a 2.5-hour race once a year potentially in the Major Series. Thank those sponsors that put it on the track.
Yeah, big shout out to the Forge guys for helping me with practice, and shout out to Maurice especially for helping me getting the gearing right in this car. Shout out to, actually, I forget who it was specifically, but the Camel GT guys for helping me with the setup. Shout out to Wise Market, Smoketown Brewing Station, Spinners Pinball, Fourth Dimension, all wonderful people. Shout out to Majors Garage for putting this on, Delta Sport, All Sports Racing, and lastly, you guys.
We appreciate that one. That is Murphy Nichols, the overall race winner and the winner for the Nissan class. And Nathan Medina, you won in the Audis, and you went wire to wire. You didn't seem to have much of a challenge out there tonight.
Oh, no. So, yeah, the biggest challenge was going to be my own teammate, fighting for the championship. So, like, I still had in the back of my mind, still had pressure that, if I made a mistake or if I went off or if I made contact or anything that caused me to have to pit early or, go on a different strategic plan to fix any repairs, that he was going to take advantage. And I know that if he wins this race, or if he were to win that race, then he'd pretty much solidify the championship. So I could not let him win. I know he picked up a slowdown on his last pit. Unfortunate to my teammate, but at the same time a relief. So it was a weird feeling because I was kind of like, all right, now I can just cruise for the rest of the race because we had the biggest gap. But then I kind of still felt bad because he barely touched the 56 out of a 55 mile per hour, and it kicked the black flag. And so it's just a bad feeling to have, especially when he was doing so good all the way up to P2.
Well, we checked a stat to see if anybody's ever went wire to wire in the major series, and your name popped up twice tonight in a race at Canadian Tire. Are you just a road course whiz?
That is my strength. I am, I guess, average at oval. A good set. If I have a good set in an oval car, I'm pretty good. I'm still learning how to save tire on oval. That's not my strength. I'm a very big road course guy. So regardless what the car is, I'm pretty comfortable in how to handle traffic and all that. So now that we go to the championship finale, which is oval, which is David's strength, it's going to be a shootout. I mean, we're teammates, but at the same time, that's going to be the last race, so we're probably going to treat each other as enemies and not really help each other out because every position is going to count for the championship between us.
I might have to talk to you offline after this. I need some road course pointers, but thank the sponsors that put that very dominant car out there on the track tonight.
Yeah, I want to thank our team, Vengeance. Our guys work hard to try to put as much points on the board for us, for the team championship. I know Mad Sim Racing, they got a lot of points here, and we were just trying all year to make a comeback. Fell back, 900 points, and came back up to P2 as a team. And the work we put into the set, it's not an easy car to set up. This car it's like a brick in the wind, it's just no downforce, so it's all mechanical grip. So it's just the work in the setup, and it paid off.
We appreciate your time this afternoon. Congrats on your class win, and we'll see you next month at Homestead for that 267 lap event there.
Yep, thanks.
That's P2 Nate Medina, and Tim Moore is standing by with P2 in the Audi class, Chris Yedio.
I'm here with Chris Yedio, and for you here this evening, of course, it's not a win, it's a runner-up result, but overall a very solid performance as the evening went on. What was the biggest challenge of the day? Up here in the booth, we saw a lot of chaos for about 2.5 hours, but you were able to keep your nose clean to not just get home a good result, but also pretty much keep yourself with an opportunity to get in the mix. What adversity did you feel you had to face throughout the day here at Daytona?
So about lap 6, I think, I was rear-ended by a P2 and picked up a 4X. And so I had to take my fast repair. And then there was another a Nissan that spun in turn 2 also. So I had a wounded car for about till the first pit stop, so for about the first hour. Afterwards, I kicked it in gear. Luckily, I saved some fuel for the first and second pit stop, so I was able to run about a lap, almost 2 laps longer. And so I really short fueled at the end to try and catch up and get a gap to close that gap to Dave and Nathan. So other than that, this car is my favorite in the service, so that's why I'm here. That's the whole reason I bought iRacing is for this car. So.
And you mentioned, obviously, the transition as the race went on. And I'm actually going to steal one from Brockton's playbook here in regards to talking about how, particularly today, no lights, of course, being on your car, how much of a challenge did that play on, the long run of the race as the sun started to go down? Because compared, of course, to Nissan, where they have lights, they can flash at you. You guys can't do that. Did that create any obstacles?
No, I was just looking for the Nissans in your rearview mirror because we're such a moving brick on the straightaway. It's not too bad. The biggest thing is just misshifting, right? You run the fastest way with this car is an H pattern, so running the H pattern is really the biggest thing, is just keeping that mental acuity to make sure you get every single gear and don't miss one, because it's a 1/2 to 8/10 of a second every time you miss a gear.
And you mentioned, the gears, and I have one last question for you. How mentally exhausting is a race like this after 2.5 hours? Because I know, again, we talk about Daytona, typically 24 hours in different style cars, of course, but this definitely has to take a lot of wear and tear out of you as a driver, considering how much you have to wheel it around the racetrack, especially with the tire fall off.
Yeah, with mostly the heel toe, like my gas pedal foot went numb heel toeing the whole time, and the fall off's not too egregious on these. It especially kind of balances out with the weight, but man, these things, if you get a tiny bit of damage or you misshift, it's just understeer city.
And one last question for any shout outs here this evening for your second place result.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Forge Racing team and PC Racer. Majors Garage also. It's been it's great racing with the team. It's great just practicing with a bunch of guys. The NRG guys also joined us for practice just to hang out, and thanks to all of them, and Majors and LSRTV for putting on a great show.
Well, Cristiano comes home second in the Audi class, and I believe Brockton's going to be with Dave Gargaro Jr., who I believe came home fourth.
class. And with that, I'll send it back up to you, Terry.
Well, this has been a very fun and interesting show for the Major Series. 2.4 hours worth of coverage, and if you liked what you saw here, there's one race to go. This is the penultimate event for us, and 1 month's time we'll go to Homestead Miami Speedway. I don't have the exact date in front of me.
November 6th.
November 6th we go to Homestead, so not too far away. We see that. You can catch all the action here on LSRTV. You have tomorrow night, we'll see the Northwest Cup Series be brought to you live here. Potentially, myself and Wesley Outland will be on the call. I don't know how Wesley's going to be feeling. We hope he gets better soon. But that will be tomorrow. And then we have the Northwest Truck Series that will be brought here on Thursday night. But from all of us at LSRTV, from Tim Moore, Brockton Packard, Charles Wooten, Jeff Stabnell, and all the great folks behind the scenes here with Rocket Media and CRN, this has been the Major Series powered by the Majors Garage right here on LSRTV.